You know, with everything Donald Trump's been talking about doing, everything he's actually done, this story seems like it may actually happen. So a couple of Republicans in the Senate want to abolish the TSA. They argue that it's been cumbersome, post 9/11, et cetera, and private security would be better. We also heard the GOP is planning to defund NPR and PBS. And I believe it. I believe all of it. I wouldn't be surprised if in 6 months, almost every bureaucratic institution has been completely gutted because they already fired most of the people at the Department of Education. And there's very little that Democrats can actually do to stop it because Trump can move faster than the courts. You get all these stories, talking about the courts are blocking Trump and Trump's acting all mad about it. But if you actually look at what's getting done, the Republicans are eviscerating the bureaucratic institutions. So we'll talk about that. Then we got some more stories about Teslas getting vandalized. We've got some nasty ones. One guy's on video rubbing dog waste on a Cybertruck because people are messed up. And the guy, I think it's the guy who torched Vegas. They caught him. And he's going to go for a very, very long time. So we're going to talk about that and a couple other stories, of course. But before we do, my friends, check out join crowdhealth.com. Almost missed that one. Join crowdhealth.com. My friends, health insurance is confusing, expensive, and frustrating, and claim denials are becoming more and more common. In fact, 1 in 5 Obamacare claims were denied last year, and that is unacceptable. The headache of health insurance is exactly why CrowdHealth was created. It's not health insurance. It's a better way to pay for healthcare through crowdfunding. Stop sending money to big insurance companies who profit off of not paying your bills and check out CrowdHealth. The truth is, big insurance companies profit by not paying your bills. You send them money every month, but when you actually need care, you're stuck fighting through red tape. That's why CrowdHealth was created. It's not health insurance. It's a better way to pay for healthcare built on community and crowdfunding. Instead of paying into a system that works against you, join CrowdHealth, where members support each other in time of need. For just $175 a month for an individual or $575 for a family of 4 or more, you'll gain access to telemedicine visits, discounted prescriptions, and so much more without insurance networks limiting your choices. It's time to stop paying for a broken system. Start taking control of your healthcare. Join CrowdHealth today and experience a smarter, fairer way to handle medical expenses. Let CrowdHealth help with your healthcare needs. Get started today for just $99 per month for your first 3 months using promo code TIM at joincrowdhealth.com. CrowdHealth is not insurance. Learn more at joincrowdhealth.com. One more time, joincrowdhealth.com, promo code TIM. And shout out to CrowdHealth for sponsoring the show. We really do appreciate it. Of course, head over to castbrew.com and buy coffee. Ian's Graphene Dream is back in stock. And of course, selling like hotcakes, because apparently people order lots of pancakes for breakfast. But we do have Appalachian Nights. That sells pretty well. And we've got Rise with Roberto Jr. We have K-Cups. We got Ground. We got Whole Bean. And I do believe we're still out of stock of Luck of the Seamus, which just came out. And he sold out completely in one day. It was only 300 bags, but maybe you'll pick up some Sleepy Joe decaf or some Focus with Mr. Bocus. Don't forget to also smash that like button, my friends. Share the show with everyone you know. It really does help. If you like the show, word of mouth is how podcasts actually grow. So if you think we do good work, tell your friends about it. Joining us tonight to talk about this and so much more, we've got the man himself, Carl Benjamin.
Good evening.
Welcome back.
Thanks so much for having me. Blah, blah.
Who are you?
Oh, I've been around.
Indeed.
Nothing too controversial in my past, but I've put that all behind me. I'm a good boy now. Look, I'm wearing a suit. So, I'm just the director of LotusEaters.com and the podcast The Lotus Eaters, and we're causing a lot of waves in Britain at the moment. There have been a lot of really positive articles about us recently. Like we're in there was an article about me in a magazine called Unheard, which is like a center-right conservative magazine, and it was just saying, look, the guy who wrote it was like, look, I'm getting loads of Zoomers coming in, like 25, 26-year-olds. We were hiring these new guys, and all I can hear is Carl Benjamin's words coming out of their mouths. What's going on? Every single one of them. And then in The Spectator, they were like, yeah, so the young men in Britain, they're not like reading, Ayn Rand or Hayek or Friedman or whatever. They're watching podcasts of Lotus Eaters and reading Bronze Age Pervert. And so we're getting name dropped in really positive ways and by these sort of the mainstream conservative magazines. And it's just like, well, look, sorry, guys, we've been working really hard. You guys have been slacking off.
Well, right on. Glad to hear it.
Oh, thank you.
How would you describe yourself these days? Post-liberal or?
Yeah, I think post-liberal is fairly fair because nobody really knows what comes after it, right? Liberalism has been the dominant paradigm of the West for 300 years. And we don't know what we're doing without it. But the thing is, it's clear that liberalism itself has become the problem. All of the real civilizational struggles that we're facing are downstream of us being liberals. And so we need to think of something else if we want to have a really positive future.
Right on. Well, thanks for coming. Should be fun. We got Ben Stewart hanging out as well.
What's up, folks? Go to benjosephstewart.com. I'm a documentary maker, musician. I'm a father. I'm concerned about what's going on in the world right now, and that's why I make content for Tim Pool. We made Game of Money not long ago, about to launch into something else. So go to benjosephstewart.com. You'll check it all out. It's everything that'll make you laugh all the way to stuff that'll make you cry.
And you can watch Game of Money on Rumble Premium. It's at rumble.com/Timcast IRL for premium members. So use promo code TIM10. And Cody Mack is back.
Yep, here just hanging out and going to enjoy some good conversation and probably going to go skate afterwards a little bit. Yeah.
Right on. Who are you? What do you do? Skate.
Professional skateboarder, obviously, and just patron of the Boonies HQ. Come and skate here quite a bit and enjoy myself and get to beat Tim in games of skate sometimes.
Sometimes.
Well,
pretty much every single
all the time. I'm trying to be nice, man. We're on the show.
Sometimes Tim wins. No, it's not true.
No.
And Phil's here.
Hello, everybody. My name is Phil Labonte. I'm the lead singer of the heavy metal band All That Remains. I'm an anti-communist and counter-revolutionary. Let's get into it.
Let's go. I saw this story and I immediately laughed. And I looked at Phil and I was like, we got to lead with this. Republicans look to abolish the TSA in favor of private security at airports. Senator Mike Lee of Utah is leading a bill alongside Senator Tommy Tuberville. They say, quote, the TSA has not only intruded into the privacy and personal space of most Americans, it has also repeatedly failed tests to find weapons and explosives. Our bill privatizes security functions at American airports under the eye of an Office of Aviation Security Oversight, bringing this bureaucratic behemoth to a welcome end. American families can travel safely without feeling the hands of an army of federal employees. They know what they're doing. The measure would officially abolish the TSA 3 years after being enacted into law, which senators believe would provide time for security needs to be privatized. The bill would also direct Secretaries of Homeland Security and Transportation to make a reorganization plan submitted to Congress. In his own statement, Tuberville said, the TSA is an inefficient, bureaucratic mess that infringes on Americans' freedoms. Indeed. Well, what do you guys do over in the UK?
Well, it's just done by the government in a way that's similar.
Same thing?
Yeah. So
I think it's worse, though, because you can't say naughty words.
Yeah, well, there's not normally a reason to swear at airport security, though. So. But no, it's just basically the same thing. We've got.
I just meant in general in the UK, you can't walk around saying naughty things.
You know, it's actually mostly you can in public. The issue is when you put it on any kind of communications network. That's when they get you. And
what if you close your eyes in front of an abortion clinic?
As long as you're not praying inside your head, you're okay. If you're praying inside your head within something like 30 meters of it or something, you're in trouble.
So do you just say, like, I'm not? They arrest you anyway, don't they? That's what happened to some lady?
No. They ask them, are you praying in your head? And she says, I might be. And they say, well, you're coming with us. But the thing is, it's always it's Christians, and what they're doing is deliberately kind of flouting non-interference rules that we have for abortion, which obviously I disagree with and think need to go, as well as abortion itself. But there we go. So yeah, it's pretty bad.
That's actually kind of interesting. So you guys in the UK, you've got government security. Do you care?
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, it's probably better to have all of the metal detectors and the patting down at the airports because we've got loads of Muslims in the country. Not trying to be rude, but I mean, you guys have.
But it's the extremists that you're concerned about.
Yeah, I know, but the extremists come out of the Muslim community, and so for every 100,000 Muslims, you'll have half a dozen extremists or something, right?
Right.
And it only takes one extremist to blow himself up and kill a dozen people, 2 dozen people. So it's the same here. You guys have got a couple of million Muslims in this country. So like you're going to want to actually have some sort of airport security because otherwise people will die.
Well, that's why look, I know people might not want to hear this, but that's literally what happened.
Yeah, I know.
It was Islamic terrorists on 9/11, which resulted in the
literally
expansion.
why you've got the TSA. In
so it's pretty funny because I know there's going to be a lot of people who be like, how dare you say that? That's racist.
This is what happened.
But the first thing I would say is it's a religion. It's an ideology. It's not a race. But that's actually the history of this country. So Carl is actually just saying, yeah, we're doing this because you guys did, or we're doing something similar to what you guys did.
Well, we've had terror attacks that necessitate it as well. So it's just one of those things where You just have to make. I mean, you've got like the Lockerbie bombing and various other ones where it's just you just have to have it. Because,
Well, in the UK, are the terror attacks disproportionately Muslim?
yes.
Yeah, there was the bus attacks in, I forget what the date was, but there was it 06? Was it?
Yeah.
And there was like something like that.
There are loads.
Yeah,
I mean, the Manchester Arena bombing was probably
I
the
was
worst.
just going to say the.
Are you
Manchester
allowed to
Arena
say
bombing.
that in the UK?
Yeah, it's factually true.
Oh, okay. Because I figured you get arrested. I mean, I'm.
Well, see, the thing is, the one thing that the British government spends all of their time trying to police is negative characterizations of groups, right? So you're not allowed to say all of this terror attack, all of this terrorism and the grooming gangs that come out in the Muslim community, that's given me a bad opinion of the Muslim community, right? You can't say that. As long as you say, no, that was an isolated incident, that was an isolated incident, that grooming gang, not an isolated incident because there's a bunch of them, but like it's somehow not reflective of the entire community, even though that they all kind of knew that was going on. As long as you're not saying that in public, you're okay, or on a communications device, you're okay. But otherwise, yeah, you're in trouble and you're going to jail. Yeah.
Wait, but is what you're saying going to get you in trouble?
I mean, I'm in America.
Yeah, I know, but remember when they said they wanted to extradite American citizens?
I do remember that, yeah.
I mean,
I guess we'll find out when I get home, won't we?
I don't know. What do you guys think? TSA got to go?
I mean, I would like to see the TSA go. Privatizing things is a good idea, in my opinion. The TSA has no record of preventing any type of terrorism. There's no evidence that they have ever stopped a terrorist attack at all. And there have been plenty of documented cases of people testing the TSA. I mean, official tests where people from TSA go and they try to sneak things into airplanes, and it's happened multiple times. I personally have done a lot of flying myself. And there have been times where I'll forget something in my bag and I'll get on a plane and I'll get off and I'll be like, whoa, that was not, it's not cool that was in there and stuff. So I think that TSA, and if you look at the people that are working at TSA, they're not specifically trained to do anything. They'll do whatever the training is that they have to do to get the job, but they're not they're no different than people that are working in the fast food industry or whatever, because the job itself is simple. You sit there, you tell people what they're allowed to have and not to have, and then you hand people bins. Maybe the person that's actually watching the x-ray machine gets a little more training, but generally the level of training necessary to be a TSA agent is not particularly high. It's not like it's some specialized skill that you have to go to school for. It's very low effort type of job. So they're getting people that are just off the streets like, hey, I'm looking for a job, go sign up, and you'll go through whatever training and then you get it. So it's not in any way a specialized skill. So get rid of it, privatize it, let a private company actually do the job, because they'll be more incentivized to do a better job.
You can give them great incentives as well. You can be like, look, this is your base pay, but for every gun or whatever you catch going through, you get a bonus. Mm-hmm. So they're completely, we make more money for each thing we take. Oh,
you know what they should do? They should actually.
I don't know if that'll work out well though.
Give them a bonus for getting the lines through faster.
Yeah.
Right, and obviously if they mess up, then they get.
I don't know if
fired.
that'll work either.
Yeah, I think that's gonna kind of make things sketchy.
Because if they mess up, they're still going to lose their job. They still have to do their job well. Like if something happens, you lose your job.
We should be able to grade them on how good their pat down was.
If you get to light a cigarette and feel good on the way to the gate, it's pretty
Do
good.
I get options on how this goes down?
I've had quite a few of those, yeah.
They give you the cigarette after.
Yeah, they're like, here you go, have a good one. I'm like,
Need this?
"Ugh."
Do you
There's a
need
smoking
this?
lounge down the hall on the left.
You get pre-check, you get a private room. I don't know.
I don't know that we ever actually needed the TSA in the first place.
I think
You think we did?
yeah.
I don't think that they'd catch box cutters now. It's like.
Well, hang on. So the issue isn't actually catching someone in the act, because that's normally if someone's thinking about committing a crime and there's a guard stood right there, they're like, okay, I'm not going to do it, right? But if there's no guard there, then the average Islamic extremist is like, oh right, I can just bring a bomb on here and no one's going to stop me. So what you're doing is just saying, okay, go nuts.
Didn't some dude just recently open the door on a flight?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got all of these crazy flight things happening. People are going to go crazy. And you know what else? In first class, they give you metal utensils.
Yeah.
So it's like there was this researcher named Evan Booth, I think his name was, and he had a documentary series, like a mini doc thing, where he made weapons inside of the airports, technically.
Yeah.
So he went inside airports, he bought a bunch of stuff and then left, and then went to his lab and said all of these were sourced from an airport, and then made weapons. It starts pretty rudimentary. He rolled up a bunch of magazines, taped them together, and made a club and bashed stuff with it. Yeah, okay, fine. And you could bash things. Yeah. But he actually ended up making grenades because they sold... I'm not going to explain the recipe.
Probably best not.
Best not to. It's all on the internet. I actually flew down and met with him. I think it was in North Carolina. And we actually made improvised explosives.
Didn't they take those off of YouTube?
I think YouTube took them down. Yeah. I think YouTube. Vice had a video. I think YouTube got rid of it all because they were like, oh. And so his whole point was TSA doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
There are things being sold in an airport that can very easily be turned into weapons and explosives.
There are pens that are made specifically to be self-defense items that the TSA will not stop.
Sure, but
Is that stuff under the domain of the TSA? Like, is a private security going to change stuff like that?
I don't think so. But it might be. And it honestly, if you have a system where there's private security companies that are competing to get the contract, the private security company can actually go to the airport and say, these are the things that we do. This is the quality that we can provide. And the airport itself can say, we want to go with this company or we want to go with that company. So
the problem, though, is it's not really about stopping an individual case, right? It's really about the deterrent and not having a soft underbelly and making them think that you're going to stop them. Because I guarantee it, the second the TSA, or like if all checks were taken off tomorrow, you would just start seeing this uptick of hijackings and explosives and explosions. And you would, because there is an active force in the world that is at war with the United States and will happily use terrorism.
I'm actually more concerned with leftists right now.
It could be those.
Yeah.
It could be
like all of the low grade terror that we see comes from the left, and they have mainstream support, which is worrying.
Yep.
Let's but we will get into that, but let's jump to this story real quick while we're still on the topic of getting rid of government. We've got this one from Fox News. The GOP moves to defund the chronically biased NPR and PBS after disastrous hearing. They're always so clever with their bills, titled the No Partisan Radio and Partisan Broadcasting Services Act, or simply the NPR and PBS Act. Would fully cut off any direct or indirect government funding for both outlets, forcing them to compete instead of being propped up by the government. Did you guys see those the hearing that went down? I think it was today, where they had the CEO, maybe it was yesterday, the CEO of NPR. Man, I got to pull this one up. Let me grab this one. Basically, she's asked if NPR is biased.
Yes, I heard.
And then she's like, no, it is not. And he's like, then why did you tweet Trump is a fascist, racist, white supremacist? Yeah.
Listen, I was tweeting that in a personal capacity. That wasn't a professional capacity. In my professional life, I'm completely neutral on Trump.
I think there are 87 people on the board there, or I don't remember if it was the board or whatever. There were 87 officials that were involved in NPR. 87 of them are Democrats. And when questioned about it, she was like, "Well, we don't ask people their political
don't ask,
leanings,
don't tell, right,
but
yeah.
I do find this to be a problem, and that's concerning." It's like that is absolute BS. Absolute BS.
Yeah, they know what
Here,
they're doing.
take a look at this clip.
And did you say there's no bias on NPR?
That is not a
That is not a
NPR.
biased statement, ma'am. That is not even both parties wrap themselves around this song every time there's a national conflict. Lee Greenwood sings it, and he does a beautiful job. But you say there is no bias in NPR.
That is that individual's opinion, and she, of course, is entitled to it. But that is not the position of NPR.
Ma'am, you said in your opening statement that you were going to be transformative. And I believe you failed to do that. Let me ask you, why did you call President Trump a fascist and a deranged racist sociopath in 2020?
Congressman, I appreciate the opportunity to address this. I regret those tweets. I would not tweet them again today. They represented a time where I was reflecting on...
Yo, there's way more. It's endless. Yeah. We've got this tweet from Brandon Gill. Let's watch this one.
Do you believe that America is addicted to white supremacy?
I believe that I tweeted that, and as I've said earlier, I believe much of my thinking has evolved over the last half decade.
It has evolved.
Since
Why
Trump
did you tweet that?
Right.
I don't recall the exact context, sir, so I wouldn't be able to say.
Okay. Do you believe that
Trump would
America
lose.
believes in black plunder and white democracy?
I don't believe that, sir.
You tweeted that in reference to a book you were reading at the time, apparently, The Case for Reparations.
I don't think I've ever read that book, sir.
You tweeted about it. You said you took a day off to fully read The Case for Reparations. You
This
put
is
that
amazing.
on Twitter in January of 2020.
Apologies, I don't recall that I did.
Okay.
Dude, it's just
no doubt
it's literally
good.
3 minutes of this.
Your tweet
It's
there is
so
correct,
good.
but I don't recall that.
Okay.
Can
Do
we
you
pause
believe
that a
that
second? 'Cause
white
this is-
people
this is just
inherently
so
feel
good.
superior to other races?
I do not.
You don't. You tweeted something to that effect. You said, "I grew up feeling superior. Ha! How white of me." Why did you tweet that?
I think I was probably reflecting on what it was to grow up in an environment where I had lots of advantages.
It sounds like you're saying that white people feel superior.
I don't believe that anybody feels that way, sir. I was just reflecting on my own experience.
so
Do you think that white people should pay reparations?
I've never said that, sir.
Yes, you did. You said it in January of 2020. You tweeted, "Yes, the North. Yes,
Yes,
all
you
of us.
did.
Yes, America. Yes, our original collective sin and unpaid debt. Yes, reparations. Yes, on this day."
I don't believe that was a reference to fiscal reparations, sir.
What kind of reparations was it a reference to?
This is
I think it was just a
brutal.
reference to the idea that we all owe much to the people who came before us.
That's a bizarre way to frame what you tweeted. Okay, how much reparations have you personally paid?
Sir, I don't believe that I've ever paid reparations.
Okay, it's just for everybody else.
I'm not asking anyone
Seems
to pay
to be what you're
reparations, sir.
suggesting. Do you believe that looting is morally wrong?
I believe that looting is illegal, and I refer to it as counterproductive. I think it should be prosecuted.
Do you believe
to the
it's
full extent of the
morally
law.
wrong, though?
Of course.
Of course. Then why did you refer to it as counterproductive? It's a very different way to describe it.
It is both morally wrong and counterproductive, as well as being
You
illegal.
tweeted, "It's hard to be mad about protests," in reference to the BLM protests, not prioritizing the private property of a system of oppression. Jesus. You didn't condemn the looting. You said that it was counterproductive. NPR also
Gosh, stop,
promoted
she's
a
already
book
dead.
called In Defense of Looting.
Jesus,
But that's no-
Yeah, it's just 3 minutes of that straight.
I love his smirk, though. I
embarrassing.
love
Yeah.
his smirk. He's so got.
The best is when she's like, "I never said." He goes,
Yeah, you did.
"Yeah, you
Yes, you
did. You tweeted it right here." That's NPR. That's the
I feel like she
CEO
should
of
have known
NPR.
by then to stop saying I never said that.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah.
You know? He has all these papers and she can't remember shit.
I'm sure there's nothing else on that. I'm sure it's just that one, you know.
So she gets asked by Rep Burchett if they've ever conducted a review to see if they have bias in the company. And she goes, "Our audience is 33% conservative," which is not answering the question. Because
But that also
conservatives...
indicts her. Why isn't your audience 50% conservative? If you're
Well-
an unbiased thing, why wouldn't it be roughly equal?
Well, her argument is that because it's 30% Republican, 30% Independent, 30% Democrat.
Oh, right.
Democrat, right? And but here's the thing. Republicans, she believes because Republicans watch or listen to NPR, that means they're not biased. Republicans complain all day and night about how biased NPR is, and they still watch because conservatives are trying to get a full perspective on what's going on. That's why conservatives know what liberals are thinking, and liberals think conservatives are insane and evil.
Well, the liberals, and you pointed to it there. The liberals actually think that conservatives are evil, right? They think that it is a moral question, that every political question is actually a moral question. And if you come down in a place that is not where the consensus is, it is because of a character flaw or some kind of defect with the person, totally ignoring the fact that their morals are based on Christian principles.
Yeah, no. If it was a character flaw or something intrinsically defective about the person, the liberal would let it go, right? Because that's what every thief, that every mugging, every violent encounter, they will say, "Oh no, he was from a bad home. Look at his environment. That can be no. They think you choose to be evil. They think you've weighed up the pros and cons of both sides. You go, no, I'm team evil. I'm actually, and that's what they think. If they thought there was something wrong with you that prevented you from arriving at the morally correct liberal perspective, they'd let it go. They'd be like, yeah, no, he's fine. Just from a bad home, whatever. No. They think you know what you're doing, and they think that you're evil, and that's what
The
they
actual
they think
awareness and choice.
Yes.
Okay.
They that's why it was what Solzhenitsyn, the story of the army officer who stabbed the other guy. They prosecuted. So the story was there's an army officer. He gets attacked. The guy pulls a knife on him, tries to kill him. He defends himself, grabs the knife, stabs the other guy. He gets arrested.
Yeah.
And they said, well, the criminal didn't know better. You did. You could have fled.
Yeah.
Why didn't you run? And he was like, the guy was trying to kill me.
Yeah.
That's how it was in the Soviet Union.
And that's how it is anywhere the left is in charge.
Yeah.
Because the left's fundamental position, remember, is that society is inevitable and it makes people bad. And if therefore society itself is something, there's something wrong with it, right? And if you're paying your taxes, if you're following the law, you're obeying the rules, and you're doing okay out of it, well, then you're just complicit with the evil society. Right? The people who aren't following the laws are the ones who have been made bad by society. So the evil society has turned them into this, and therefore that person is a victim of the evil society that you prop up with your tax, with your obedience.
Because
So
you know better. That's why you got to break rocks.
And remember, you're choosing to be evil in this evil society. That's why they hate you so much.
You know what I love? Just how mathematically stupid the communism is. I mean, obviously, in a variety of ways, it's very stupid. But, from each according to their ability to each according to their need.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
that's theft.
well, but it's also mathematically just stupid. Let's do the math on this. You got 10 people in a room, and you're like, 8 of them produce nothing, but they need, 100% of the resources per person. Okay, well, you just die. Everything just literally falls apart.
Even if they only
And
needed
ethos doesn't work.
Even if each one only needed a tenth of the resources, how is it just to make 2 people provide resources for another 8 people?
Oh, I don't care about that. I mean, I understand that point. I'm just saying, if we're doing simple math and it's like, okay, we got 100 people in a room or on a farm, 50 of them can grow just enough food for themselves. The other 50 can only grow half. It's like, okay, well, people are going to die. 25 people probably are going to starve to death. That's communism. It's literally what happens every time because the math will just tell you that. It's like 1 + 1 = 2. But they try. Bless their hearts. They keep trying while they stand in a pile of dead bodies.
But the thing is it's not about anything to do with what you're talking about, which is reality or practical concerns, right? Yeah, but no, but you laugh. But it's entirely a sort of utopian moral dream that they're following, and it's every single time. It's always the same dream. And there's a reason that the liberals and the communists basically look the same at this point in time. Like, what's the actual difference between Nancy Pelosi and some AOC?
AOC hasn't had enough time to insider trade to $200 million.
Morally, I meant, not financially. But morally, they want the same things. They all want the same things. And because it all kind of harmonizes into the same philosophy at the end of the day.
So let's get into the philosophy here. We'll start with this story from the White House. Ladies and gentlemen, the White House posted a Studio Ghibli meme of a morbidly obese criminal illegal immigrant being arrested by, I assume, Tom Homan. This is from the United States White House, Carl. This is what our White House is doing.
I've seen.
Awesome.
Studio Ghibli.
So, okay, so this is a couple of stories. You've got this fentanyl dealer arrested. The White House announced this a week ago. Yeah. And then the Studio Ghibli memes go viral where people are loading photos into ChatGPT and saying to recreate it in the style of Studio Ghibli. So the White House made an image of a crying, morbidly obese fentanyl drug dealer, criminal legal alien being arrested. And this is, I'm for it.
And of course, the leftists have taken the side that this is morally reprehensible, and that, of course, the fentanyl dealing, multiple time arrested illegal criminal.
Yo, look at the serfs
here.
Society turned her into the
Carl, look at what the serfs responded with. Can you want to read that? Can you read it?
Yes, that's a very interesting thing for him to say as an avowed atheist, I'm sure.
He says, "None of you will see the kingdom of heaven."
Yeah.
I really love the meme where it's like, I forgot exactly what the quote is, but I reject your backwards views. Your religion is offensive to me, but I'll appeal to it because maybe then you'll do what I tell you to do.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what they do.
Yeah.
Oh,
no, dude.
Kids watch Studio Ghibli. This is just hilarious.
I mean, they're great movies.
They are.
You got Howl's Moving Castle, right?
I've never seen a single one.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah.
I think I tweeted at you, Howl's Moving Castle.
Yeah, I will watch them there because I've had so many people like, oh, you should watch this, so I will.
I mean, they're kind of just silly fairy tales. There's no, right, exactly. That's why I think they're great.
Yeah,
but they're not built around the same catty conflict that most American shit is built around. It's actually, it's got more depth than that.
Yeah, like Howl's Moving Castle is the sorcerer has a castle that walks. And then a witch curses a young lady to be old. And you're like, well, that happened. It's fun.
Ponyo, My Cousin
Oh, yeah.
Totoro. There's some really
My Neighbor Totoro.
My Neighbor Totoro.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Kiki's Delivery Service, Princess Mononoke, Spirited Away. Oh, there's so many good ones.
There's really good.
We
ones,
love
yeah.
them.
So can I be the fun police?
Fun Police. No, what's going on?
I don't think this is wise.
Why not?
Right. Okay. So a couple of things. So first things first. I've never seen a Studio Ghibli film, but everyone loves them, and it seems to be that they have a kind of nostalgia about them. There's something kind of dreamy and nice about them. And
Have you seen the memes? The Studio Ghibli memes?
yeah, I've seen them.
Everybody loves Studio Ghibli, and everybody is posting these memes.
I know.
And there's like some of the most vile imagery imaginable, Ghiblified.
I know.
9/11 Ghiblified.
I know.
You're saying it's poor taste.
No, it's not that it's poor taste. It's that this is tapping into the sentimental, nostalgic side of a person's brain. And what this does is actually frame the fentanyl dealer as what appears to be a sympathetic victim. If you didn't know anything about the backstory, you'd be
I see
like,
what you're saying.
Why is this mean man arresting this poor, obese woman of color? She's crying, and I guess she's getting deported.
There should be cartoon fentanyl.
Yeah.
hanging out of her pants, yeah.
So if you don't know anything about it, it looks quite mean, right? If you're from the outside. There's a second thing as well, which is there's political capital is never static, right? You're either gaining it or losing it. And when you take responsible actions that people who don't like you can't help but show respect to, you're gaining it, right? When you are doing something that you know the other side hates, but you think it needs to be done anyway, you're losing it. You burn it up. This is something the other side hates, but it doesn't really do anything. So it's an expense in political capital that isn't really very wise, because what this does to people who are not heavily on the internet like us is make them think, why is there a childish Zoomer in charge of the White House official communications? This doesn't make me think well of the Trump administration generally, and therefore you lose a lot more political capital than you might think.
Maybe. I think also one thing to consider is this is a hyper online thing. I mean, if you're not online, you're not seeing this post.
Sure, but they'll write a bunch of news articles about this. They were like, the White House official communications are now mocking poor obese fentanyl dealers, and look at the crying face.
Well, they would say asylum seeker. You know, what I mean?
Whatever it is, right?
But I wonder with this, it's how much goodwill have they lost because they've lied so much, and additionally, does the White House use the strategy of get them to complain to annoy the base or their base?
Possibly, but the problem I think that the Trump administration is showing at the moment, and this is a genuine form of weakness that I think could be avoided. And I say this as someone who's been a Trump partisan since 2016, right? So I'm not, I don't think anyone would ever accuse me of not supporting Trump hard enough. But I went a couple of years ago. I went to a conference in Miami, and Curtis Yarvin, of all people, was speaking there. He's like, "Look, the Republicans need a plan to literally own the libs, because if you come back and you win a superb victory, they're going to be under your dominion, right? You're going to be the ones making decisions for them, and you can either make good decisions that actually make everyone's lives better and leave them in a position where they have to admit that you have done good things." Or you can wind them up for 4 years and hang on and end up burning up a bunch of political capital that you'll carry as baggage afterwards. And it seems actually the Trump administration is kind of going in the wrong direction there. It would actually be more sensible if they had a proper plan to own the libs.
What if this is the muzzle velocity that Steve Bannon was talking about?
Sorry, go on. Tell me what you were saying there.
Well, just the muzzle velocity of like thing after thing after thing,
Yeah.
so the other side doesn't know what to even address.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's not really about the other side, because the other side, no matter what happens, they're going to be entrenched activists against everything you do for every reason. The issue is essentially not to give them an easy win. Right? This stuff is giving them an easy win. Even if everyone hates them, and everyone does hate the Democrats, they don't hate the Democrats so much that they don't care what the sitting administration does, and that doesn't reflect on them. And it's not that no one of these things is going to be a dramatic drop, but it's about the slow, gradual whittling away of the political capital that the Trump administration had really built up. And you are right about the sort of flood the zone thing. That is good in a situation where you need to keep your opponent off their feet. But there is still a collective effect, which is, why are they being sort of childish and chaotic? Why aren't they being authoritative and responsible?
Maybe
right?
this will result in them writing a bunch of stories and defending a fentanyl dealer, which they can then respond with, you are defending a criminal, illegal alien fentanyl dealer.
Yeah, but the problem is, it's not really about the individual, the actual battlefield, right, of what the person did. The problem is, it's about the character of the people engaged in the fight. And what the Trump administration should be doing at the moment is demonstrating higher character than the Democrats, which is not hard to do. And the thing is, I believe that the Trump administration has higher character than the Democrats, because I know several of them myself. I'm friends with a bunch of them, and I'm friends with a bunch of the people around them. And I like everyone in this sphere. But the problem is, I think that a lot of you guys have been in the trenches for a long time, right? And when you've been in the trenches, you've been under constant fire from the Democrats. It's nice to have these wins. Now you've got the levers of power. But the thing is, a lot of the country is not an entrenched MAGA Republican, right? And yet they still lent their votes to Trump because they're like, no, Trump is the guy to fix problems. And he is. He is fixing loads of problems. Like, I'm so jealous of Doge. I'm so jealous of what he's doing on the border. I'm so jealous of what he's doing just cutting down the state in general and just making America a more potent force in the world. This kind of thing detracts from that. And it becomes a kind of stain on what is otherwise a cavalcade of glory. And there's no reason not to actually really sort of step into the role of, no, we are the saviors of the West here. We don't need to be prattling around. We're not even just going to crush our opponents. That's already happened. We're going to show them how a good future is going to be. And it doesn't need that, you know, it doesn't need that sort of thing.
I see what you're saying. I largely agree, but
it's not funny either. It is funny, but it's like there is a bigger concern.
I do think that while I agree and I understand what you're saying, I do think it's really minimal. The bigger thing that Trump has done, the biggest things he's done, one, gutting USAID, which is how a lot of these lawyers and legal firms were having money run through NGOs, but requiring citizenship for voting. We might not have to worry so much for two big reasons. Even Ezra Klein has come out and said the 2030 census is going to shift so many congressional seats away from Democrats in blue states towards red, that the fascinating thing about elections is that if one person switches their vote from, say, Ben to Carl, it doesn't create a 1 point swing, it creates a 2 point swing. So when California loses 3 and New York gains 3, you're not got a 6 point difference. That is much more difficult for them to overcome in terms of earning more votes in their states or in other states.
Yeah.
That's coming no matter what. And the 2020 census was done wrong. Everybody's been talking about it, saying there's going to be a correction. Ezra Klein made a video where he basically said, even if Kamala Harris ended up winning like North Carolina and Pennsylvania, she still would lose with the new electoral map. So while I respect what you're saying...
Well, hang on. So this I agree that is all true. But there's a kind of calcification in the mindset of American political commentary when it comes to this kind of flipping on the map, because what Trump showed is that people actually change their mind, right? Lots of people actually do change their mind and swing from one way to another. They actually decide, no, I'm going over. So, like, just changing the demographics, as the Democrats discovered, isn't enough, actually. Because a lot of those people can be persuaded over to the Donald Trump side to make America great, right? So it's not that you're wrong. Obviously, you're completely correct about that. But it's just like extra layers of things that could go wrong for the Republicans.
Do you think that the argument changed the people's minds, or do you think that the actual conditions on the ground is what changed people's mind? Because it's my sense that they didn't like what they saw from the Biden administration less than conservatives made arguments that they were convinced by.
I think it's both things. I mean, the argument that you make, it not only attracts the people who already agree with that, obviously, and anyone who is potentially going to be persuaded by it on its own merits in the abstract, but it also stakes out your position, right? So you say, no, look, we are the party of law and order, we're the party of borders, we're the party of doing things right, they're the party of evil, and they come out and go, yes, we're the party of evil, this is our evil constituency, and so if things are bad under the party of evil, then they can always go over to the Republicans and the MAGA base,
yes.
Right? And so you've always got that kind of castle there that people can run to as refugees politically. So it's not that the individual argument makes the difference. It's just that you set yourself up as an alternative that they can choose, and did in large numbers. I mean, Trump winning the popular vote like the Democrats are hanging their head in shame. You can tell because they were so proud that Trump lost the popular vote the first time around. It's like, no, you got nothing now.
Yeah.
You know. But the point being that the MAGA people running the White House thing, what they should be posting if they want to post like mimetic stuff on the internet is almost kind of not superhero, but you know what I mean, like something noble. You know, is what they should be posting, I think, rather than memes. I mean, memes. Let your base post the memes. You know, they should like in the group chat where they have the America with the shield and the sword.
Yeah.
That's fine.
So how about it would have been acceptable or in your estimation would it have been fine if JD Vance posted that from his account or would it be
he's the vice president. The things about Vance is that he's a really credible guy, right? He's a really good talker.
He is, yeah.
He looks responsible. He's a dad. He's got the right aura about him that he can sit down. He could sit down in a room full of he could go on The View and mollify their fears, right? He shouldn't be memeing either, you know.
No.
It's not that I don't like memes or anything like that. What it is about what's the outside perception of that, you know.
I get what you're saying, yeah.
Sorry.
So
I'm just thinking of the
funny.
administrative tactics outside of all this.
Sorry, go on.
The administrative things that Trump has done may result in Democrats never winning again.
Possibly.
Or at least in this not this iteration. And then you take on Gallup's polling. You get NBC, you get CNN showing Democrats at record low disapproval ratings, 29%, 27%. Another poll coming out showing it's at 26%. Gallup showing that 51% of the Democratic Party either want it to stay the same or move further left. And so while the argument from Gallup is a plurality wants moderation, that doesn't get to the big picture of the Democratic Party. 45%, according to Gallup, say be more moderate. 22% say stay the same. 29% say move to the left.
Go left.
But here's the thing. They're currently insane. Yeah. So if we're talking about how the Democrats win, moderating is how they win.
Yeah.
But if 22% are like, let's keep being as crazy as we are, and 29% says, let's be crazier than that, that's the direction they're going to go.
Yeah.
And then they're not going to be able to win. And then, you know, depending on what happens in the next year with Trump gutting their resources and these executive orders, their schemes may end as well. So we may actually see, this will be interesting. Rosie O'Donnell says that Elon Musk owns and controls the internet and that Trump is the first president to ever win every swing state. Okay. Well, maybe Elon does, but Elon says he thinks we can get to 60 senators.
I would love to see it.
I would love to see it.
But the thing is, remember, the Democrats were like, oh, look at the demographics of Texas. Look at the demographics of wherever. We're going to bust a load of illegals in there. You're never going to win again. It's going to be Democrat rule forever at the end of the Republicans. So, and that didn't happen, right? So I'm not saying that you're wrong. Obviously, all of the things you're saying are accurate. But it's all predicated on people just not having a change of heart.
Right. Not necessarily. Donald Trump revoked, do you see the story? 530,000 legal immigration statuses from migrants. So it was a ploy. Biden said, if you can get a sponsor, you can come. And 530,000 people came in. Trump said, you're out. Trump's not only kicking out the illegal immigrants, the criminals, the gangs, he's kicking out people who were given temporary protected status. He's getting rid of people who came here legally under a Biden policy. And he's revoking student visas for people who are anti-Israel. So he's booting a lot of people.
Yeah, I know.
This is gonna. So maybe he doesn't make it through 26. Who knows? This is going to be a long battle for the next 5 years, which will impact 2030 midterms. So 2032 will be the true test. But based on what we're seeing, I've got no reason to believe that Democrats can muster up anything to counter Trump. That being said, I understand your point on don't be a child. We are watching Donald Trump's march to the sea on the deep state. Don't deviate with silly, childish things.
Don't mess around. Don't take risks because you don't know what will happen tomorrow.
Yep.
Tomorrow, some Democrat whiz kid could come up and be like, "Oh, look, in 2028, I'll be 35 or whatever."
Harry Sisson.
Yeah, not him. But and he might have superb rhetoric and actually a new form of argumentation that is just very persuasive to people. And suddenly you find yourself on the defensive when you're like, "Well, how did this happen?" These kind of reverses happen all the time in politics.
Trump is it.
Exactly. Yeah. Trump's a great example of it, right? So it's just don't be arrogant, don't be conceited. Do the job properly, but be confident. Be responsible, and you can win.
Did you? What did people say? They posted a video saying JD Vance was planting freedom seeds on the range with the Marines.
Oh, yeah.
You see the video?
No, I didn't see them.
This is the best vice president I've ever had.
He's
We've ever had in my life. JD Vance was at the range. He was shooting at the range with Marines, and they said he got a headshot. I don't know how many yards it was, but to see the vice president actually working with the troops, knowing what he's doing, I'm a huge fan of military leadership in the executive branch. Donald Trump doesn't get a special pass from me in this regard. The dude is our first president with no political military experience or anything like that, just business. But it's okay. It's okay. We take what we can get. But JD Vance is great. So, people have been getting really excited seeing things like this and speeches he's been given. Like maybe actually he will step up in 2028 and be the guy.
Yeah.
Well, let's jump to the story from the Post-Millennial. Man arrested for targeted attack at Las Vegas Tesla Center, according to police. Police said the Molotov cocktails were used in order to set several fires, set fire to several Teslas. They got him, ladies and gentlemen. There he is. He has a big beard.
That's exactly as I expected.
Actual communist.
Actual commie Paul Kim was arrested Wednesday, charged with arson as well as possessing an explosive device. I think he's facing, 20 years?
Good.
And is this federal or is this state? I think this might be just state, right?
I don't know, but
he was arrested on Wednesday. Police said Vegas. Yeah, Las Vegas Metro. Means federal charges are coming next.
Good.
This dude's going away for a long time.
I mean, he's a terrorist.
Yep.
Indeed.
So,
and there's many more. Here's a video of a man smearing dog feces on a Cybertruck. And then we've got another one. I think it's, here we go. So I tweeted, this proves low IQ at this point. Teslas have cameras. They are lacking the cognitive faculties to understand. Check this out.
Glances over at the car, and moments later, they return and quickly start keying the passenger
She's
door
writing something
with a phone in the other hand.
She looks like a
You
goblin.
can tell in the video, too. Like, they're actively
What's wrong with them?
starting to record, and they're recording the whole thing. You can easily tell this is a targeted, like, there's intent there. And they, kind of a mockery of it, right?
It's a
With all the
camera,
recording.
dude.
Seconds later,
like
the
a goblin,
vandal
doesn't
runs off. The owners, who asked to remain anonymous, noticed the damage about a half hour later and say since then they have felt unsettled and somewhat fearful.
These are felonies.
Yeah.
These people are all going to prison for a long, long time. Now, Carl, you said they're leftists. Agreed. Let that be a synonym for cognitively disabled or developmentally
I thought
disabled.
it was. We'd all agreed.
Indeed, because as I was mentioning earlier, the math doesn't add up at all. Let's get a bunch of people who don't produce as much as they need and see what happens. And what? You'd starve to death. And then is it any wonder that every time communism happens, they starve to death?
No. Not a coincidence.
No.
It's consistent
Indeed.
result from that kind of mindset.
You see, I'm making the mistake of projecting my intelligence onto other people. When I say, but Teslas have cameras, I have an IQ above 70 and can notice cameras on Teslas. They cannot.
If it helps, I didn't know Teslas had cameras either.
Really?
Well, yeah, because I don't have one or anything. I don't know. I just didn't think about it, right? It's never came up because why would I?
That's how they auto drive.
Well, honestly, not to sound disparaging to the UK, but car ownership is not as common in the UK as it is in the US.
I mean, everyone has a car in the UK.
No.
I thought that people used a lot of public transportation, or used more public transportation.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean they don't have cars as well, right? But I mean, I just didn't know anything about Teslas mechanically, right? So I didn't know that they were recording all the time around them. But it's not a problem for me because I'm not going to vandalize them.
Yeah, I can. I can pull up my phone right now, and I can look at the cameras.
Right. That's awesome.
I know it's pretty cool because sometimes I'm waiting for like a delivery,
Yeah.
and like my car's parked up front, and I'm like, let's see what happens.
They're sick.
So would that mean it's always tracking? Like it's always recording?
Apparently, yeah.
You can turn it on and off from your cell phone.
Yeah, but like if the owners found out 30 minutes later.
Yeah, they have a security system called Sentry Mode.
So if it notices movement, it starts recording.
Oh, my phone goes off.
That's brilliant.
So if I'm at I was at the mall a few months ago, walking around, and my phone goes burp, 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 and it's like Tesla security alarm activated. And then I was like, I looked, and it was nothing. I think like a semi truck drove through the parking lot, and everything shook, and then the alarm went off. And I was like, oh, okay. But it's pretty wild because when you look at those Waymos and other electric cars, they got cameras everywhere. So I would just assume if people were looking at an electric car like a Tesla, they self-drive. But I guess fair point. I mean, these people don't pay attention. They don't know. It's not their world. And they see cars and they're like, get them.
If you're not a tech guy, why would you know?
I mean,
Well, even the other day, me and Tim were in the Cybertruck driving over to Martinsburg, and I'm just sitting at the red light waiting to take a left, like kind of just zoning out. And I look over, and there's this lady just pissed, just pointing, yelling, screaming. I'm like, yo, Tim, check this out. Like, we got some thumb downs. We got
that was fun.
We got a few pretty,
we were
pretty
laughing.
bummed out people.
We high-fived. We were like, yeah. And then we talked about how punk rock we were.
Yeah, we were super.
Did you get the sticker yet? I got this after I figured out Elon was based.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's what I was joking. I was going to say. It's like, I was like, we parked and I was like, if anyone comes up to me, I'm going to be like, guys, I had no idea that Elon would be this crazy when I bought it, but that's why I did. I just got it recently. He's awesome.
Yeah.
If only I had known.
The truck gets more attention than the cars, though, because the Cybertruck does stick out so much. Whereas, if you're driving like an S or a Y or whatever, they're more nondescript. I don't get those looks in my Tesla, and I kind of wish that I had a Cybertruck just so I could get those.
just put like a big Tesla sign on it.
I know, right?
There was a guy who there was like a meme, and someone not put a swastika on a Cybertruck, and then he tweeted, "Am I legally required to have this removed?" Well, like you saw that joke I posted, you elaborated on it. I was like, if these people actually thought Tesla owners were Nazis, they'd be doing them favors by. I was like, we should do a skit where like a neo-Nazi's in his living room, like watching these crazy videos of Hitler or whatever. Then his alarm goes off on his Tesla and he runs outside and he sees him spray painting and he's like, what are you doing? And they're like, I'm putting a swastika on your car, you Nazi. And then he goes,
thanks.
You are? Well, thank you.
Looks great.
It looks great. Looks great. Although, to be honest, they don't know how to draw them, so it would be weird squiggly lines and they'd be like, you got it all wrong. Yeah, well, here's the crazy thing. You'd think this would stop. With the reports of people, like, okay, I just got to say it. The reason why I said this proves low IQ at this point is because we've seen so many of these already that by now, someone might be like, oh, they have cameras and everyone's going to prison. That guy with the DIY four-wheeler who rammed into a bunch of Cybertrucks got arrested. And there's a video of him, but it's still happening. You know what I think? It's maybe low IQ, whatever. It shows these people don't actually watch the news, don't pay attention. All they know is Spaceman bad and Orange Man bad.
Or do you think that they believe that they're martyrs? Like, oh, this is, like, I'm an activist. This is, because I feel like you'd have to know now that this is not going to be tolerated.
Some of them, like, you think, Carl, that they're like, I'm going to go to jail for this.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look at who was the guy who set himself on fire for Palestine, right?
Yeah.
Don't remember his name.
No, I'm afraid
Rick?
I don't. I don't even. I'm not even trying to dunk on the guy because, like, I just thought, oh, this is some poor brainwashed kid, right? Who's just spent far too much time on the internet, and now his parents are going to have to find out that for some, the Palestinians don't give a shit about this guy. Never heard of him, and now he's dead, and that's your kid dead. And I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ, man.
Eric Bushman.
Whatever, but like the leftists and that, they're cheering it on, right? And it's like,
I don't know his name. See, Phil's looking at me. I'm like,
I
I'm
won't
trying to
say it.
remember.
I know it, but I'm not going to say it.
To me, I think like the martyr thing doesn't track as much as they're in a different part of their brain. They're emotional. You can see it written all over them. They're not accessing the same kind of logic that other people are. Whether that's most of the time they're in that space or just something happens when they see a Cybertruck, they're not accessing their logic.
What if we took these people and we brought them somewhere, perhaps like a camp, where we could teach them things they don't quite understand that they missed in their education, perhaps like a re-education camp? Would that work?
I mean, it's the only option you got left because these people have got nowhere else to go.
What were you saying earlier about hooking them up to AI and mapping their brain and reading and writing?
Oh, we were talking about this before the show. I was saying that one of the challenges with Neuralink is everybody's brain is different. We have similar structure genetically, but everyone's brain is a computer that essentially organically develops. So its variables are going to be 1,000,000 times different from brain to brain. So you're going to need AI to configure a Neuralink to connect to someone's brain. So you can put the electrodes on the brain, but the brain's got to figure out how to navigate that. The computer's got to figure out how to navigate each individual brain. So in that regard, once we do that, and I think we're very close to it, we can rewrite their brains.
So you don't need.
I wasn't saying that, but I guess
you don't need to take them to a camp. You just bring the camp to them because technology distributes that.
I got to be honest. as much as I don't like these psychopaths, I would not be in favor of a society that sentences people to have their brains reprogrammed by Neuralink. That would be horrifying.
It'd be a cool
Reprogram
Hollywood
the
film.
old-fashioned way, that's fine, just not by Neuralink. My problem is anti-technological. You know?
Exactly. I'm a Luddite. We can sit them in a room, put those things on their eyes that keep them open.
Exactly.
And play films.
Clockwork Orange, yeah.
Clockwork Orange.
All day, every day, but don't put AI into it because that's wrong.
Yeah.
What if people were given the option? And they were like, you can go to prison for 20 years for arson, or we will erase the violent tendencies using a mind probe.
No, they've got to do the prison.
They have to do the prison.
Yeah, you did the
That's an ethical probably thing.
Exactly.
Could you ask them?
There is a moral debt that incurs in every wrong that they do.
But that's illogical, isn't it?
No.
They go to prison for 20 years. There's no guarantee. They could just come out more radicalized.
I don't care. They have to go to prison for 20 years because they did something wrong.
Okay, what if it's prison for 2 years with reprogramming?
Well, it depends what the crime was, right? But
What if it's 2 years of public works where you're basically an indentured servant to the state to pay off your moral debt, and then before you start the service, they reprogram your brain to erase the violent tendencies, and then you do work to fix things.
maybe I'm not going to legislate the exact thing now, but the point is they have to pay their debt through suffering.
I don't agree with that.
That's a
It's
penal-
illogical. It seems emotional.
I'm not saying it's not emotional, but the point is it's what they have to do. So, because whenever
Well, that's not an argument.
of course it is, right? You've hurt someone. Right?
Yeah.
You
So
actually
is the
now
point
owe them
penalty or rehabilitation?
something. Well, when has rehabilitation ever been the?
That's why
the
I'm
outcome?
saying if we can rewire their brain with an AI brain chip,
But the thing
you're
is,
done.
The thing is about rehabilitation is it's the wrong way to look at it, because it kind of acts as if they're not really responsible for what they did, right? So if we can just change the way that you act and the way you think, then it's because then it's kind of getting on it wasn't really your fault. There's something wrong with the way your brain was wired, rather than treating them as a moral agent who made a decision, who now has to suffer the penalty and pay the consequences.
Right, and that's kind of building off of B.F. Skinner behavioral psychology of there's a variable ratio reward schedule or a penal system, and the penal system actually works less at changing behavior than a reward or a variable ratio reward system. So to me, it really comes down to, like, do you think they need to incur suffering more than they need to come out of whatever period you put them into as a better citizen?
Yeah, absolutely. Because the issue with the kind of utilitarian calculus is that it makes you forget that the purpose of punishing them is to make sure they know they did something wrong and provide the catharsis for the victims of their behavior.
So how about we settle on the island? Well, when you commit a crime, you get sent to the island. I don't care what's there. That's it. You're just there and you can't come back.
That's a good idea.
That was Australia.
How effective?
Yeah, no, that's literally what it was. Can we have cameras on it this time? Like, can we?
See,
know?
it's been tried,
into-
and look how successful it is.
Yeah, look how
Wasn't that
successful
Escape from
Australia
LA?
is.
Smith
right.
Plissken? Wasn't that the whole
The thing is,
premise behind that? Yeah, I think they
that's
did
how
that.
America started as well. You know, we send our criminals to America.
Is that what you think
Turned
about
out
us?
all right.
In
where it started,
in our story, we were the great heroes who fled.
Yeah.
Ah, well, there we go.
Look, in the with the situation of criminals and stuff like that, like, part of why we put criminals in jail isn't because there's any hope of, reforming or anything like that. It's just taking someone that's dangerous off the street and putting them away. So I don't know that reform should be an actual point. I think taking them off if they do get reformed, great. If they do their time and they come out and they're like, you know what, I learned and I changed and I'm blah, 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 fine. But I think the most important thing is taking them out of society where they're a danger.
Do you know, Carl Benjamin, why we call people say they see the wind turbines, they call them windmills?
Well, I mean, I assume it's going to be something to do with the fact that we used to grind flour with windmill.
Indeed. So a treadmill. Do you know what a treadmill is?
I have been acquainted with them in the past, but I hate them.
So what is it?
Well, I'm going to guess it's something that used to be used to grind flour.
Indeed, it was a prison punishment.
Oh.
They would put people on a giant cylinder
Yeah.
with wood planks, and you'd step and you'd keep walking forward, and it was punishment. So if you committed a crime, They would take you, put you on it, and make you walk for hours every single day until you collapsed. And it would be milling the flour for the rest of the community. And your hands were tied as you walked, and you couldn't stop. It was a tread walking mill.
That's a great idea.
And then one day they were like, let's make one of those because people are lazy and need to get exercise. It's a great idea. Well, I mean, the idea...
That's also a good idea, to be honest.
The idea was that you were paying your debt to society by doing labor for the community.
Yeah. But the point being that every time you commit a crime against society, you incur a debt that you need to pay off.
I just want to give a shout out to whoever invented the windmill, where they were like, "Hey, let's make this big thing that spins in the wind, rotates a gear, and then mashes up our wheat."
To be honest, watermill's more consistent.
Pretty sure that was
That's
the
true.
Dutch.
That's true. Watermill. We've never advanced a watermill linguistically into anything else. We don't say like, go buy me a watermill. Like we have a treadmill and we have windmills. I do think it's funny when people look at wind turbines and they're like windmills. Additionally, I think it's funny when people say wind turbine as fast as they can when they're talking generally, and they say wind turbine. I'm like, winterbine? What? A wind turbine?
I just hate the fact that we're so obsessed with them. It's like, oh God, we've got to have these giant ugly things that only function like 30% of the time.
And they kill birds.
They kill birds. When nuclear power exists and we're constantly, it runs like 99% of the time, and it's so much more productive.
No one ever accused the left of being smart.
Yeah.
I just want to say I think it's Microsoft. They're starting back up 3 Mile Island. When I was in the military, I worked right next to it at the 193rd.
Wow.
And they're starting it back up for, I think, AI.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Interesting.
It's coming back.
Yeah, what do you think about AI, Carl?
I think the genie's out of the bottle, right? The devil's been summoned, so...
With all this Studio Ghibli stuff that's coming out, people are taking the Studio Ghibli memes and they're putting them into other AIs that turn them into videos. Then you've got the AI voice generator. I think it's closer than we realize, because I was saying like in a couple of years, you're going to be able to go, Disney is not going to be Disney anymore. It's going to be an IP storage locker, basically. So if you go on a ChatGPT and you say like, hey, make me an image of Spider-Man, it'll say, can't do that. But if Disney pays for a license for GPT on their servers, you can. So I think we're really close to like a company like Disney. And Disney, if you're listening, here you go. You open up Disney Plus, you've got all your shows, and then it's got make your own show.
Yeah.
And you'll click it and you'll say, I want to watch a Spider-Man movie with Tobey Maguire, but the villains, like I want Vulture in it, and I want Venom in it. And not Topher Grace Venom, Tom Hardy Venom.
Yeah.
And give me Mary Jane and Gwen, and give me like a lover's tryst. Random it'll generate it, and then you'll get to watch that movie.
That is going to be all entertainment. Have you not seen Elon doing the AI video game generation? Eventually, it's all going to be tailor-made to the individual preference.
Bespoke.
But that's gonna have some serious knock-on effects, right? Mm-hmm. Because I mean, one of the ways that we relate to one another is shared cultural experiences. If people don't have shared cultural experiences anymore, what the hell are we going to talk about?
Yes, I refer to this as the severance phenomenon.
Oh, really?
Yes, where people desperately try to make a show happen despite the fact that it's not succeeding.
I haven't watched this at all, but I've seen you going off on it.
So I don't know if we need to call it the severance phenomenon, but it is a good term for society.
Yeah.
Every individual severing from every other individual. Yeah. But the issue I take with Severance is that it's not a bad show. It's just not a good show. It's like it's on in the background, and you're like, okay. And periodically going,
what's it about? Sorry.
You can. There's a company where you sever your work personality from your personal life.
Yeah, right. My wife told me about this.
So at work, you have no recollection of your life. You don't know anything that's going on. Outside of work, you have no recollection of being in work and who works with you and what you're doing. And the show is kind of, it's one of those shows you put on in the background, but everybody's raving about it. And so they say the issue is that Apple's burning $1 billion a year. They're claiming to have these big award-winning shows, but for some reason, nobody will watch them. And I'm like, yes, okay, it's not succeeding. They argue that it's because the water cooler effect. You need a show where people the next day at work go up to each other and say, did you watch this show? There's two problems here. Remote working, people aren't at work anymore. So they're not talking about these things with each other. The other issue is, as you mentioned, everyone's getting a tailor-made cultural experience. So for Apple to produce this show with a massive budget, you need a certain amount of individuals to pay into it. it may be a good show, but not enough people like it to sustain it because, well, let's be honest. Some people watching this show right now probably don't watch any TV shows. They literally just watch Timcast videos because I produce 5 hours per day of content. It's nuts. You see I'm losing my voice?
Yeah.
It's 5 hours. I'm not even kidding. Now we're doing the hour show on the Rumble mornings, and I just add another hour in the day. I'll probably explode at some point. But everybody's getting...
I did warn you about burnout, didn't I?
But it's not burnout. It's physical
joking.
exhaustion.
Well, I didn't mean, yeah, it could be literally anything.
But it's okay because I get NAD every 2 weeks, which is, immortality serum, which just...
Oh, is it?
That's the secret, I guess. I'm actually half kidding. But to your point about this cultural discohesion or whatever the word would be, the more we get into a decentralization of culture, the epic works, the AAA games, the blockbuster movies will cease to exist. Everything's going to go low budget. AI is going to help pick up the slack to a certain degree. But, I mean, look at these movies that come out of Netflix. They're not the big blockbusters anymore. Look at the risk they took with Snow White. Massive bomb. $600 million estimated in reshoots, in the initial budget, reshoots and marketing. And it's made $92 million. It's not expected to make back any of its money. Rachel Zegler...
$92 million.
$92 million so far internationally.
With the name Snow White attached.
Indeed.
It had a lot of problems.
Yeah, I believe it.
But let's break this down. What were the problems? Rachel Zegler's cultural identity is an affront to a large portion of Americans. And the film was trying to avoid being ableist with the dwarves, so incorporating the 7 bandits, but then everyone got offended by that, so they tried to do it every way possible. They said, okay, we need the nostalgia factor, so we got to do the dwarves. No, but we can't because it's ableist. Do CGI little gremlin things. Okay, but what if the people are still going to get mad? Then put bandits in it instead. Okay, well, now they did both, quite literally, both. There's the 7 bandits and the 7 dwarves, which makes no sense. There's no prince anymore because princes are offensive.
Oh, right.
Disney tried to make a film that would somehow latch onto every cultural identity in this country, and they got nothing for it. So as, we talk about the culture war. That's the big picture of the left and the right. At the base, look at video games. Video games can't muster up the same audiences anymore. They're getting released fewer and far between. So in order to make a massive production, you need a massive amount of people to lend their resources to that production. It's not happening anymore. So I think, to your point of what you were saying, once we get into this AI-generated entertainment world, which we're already almost there with video games, imagine you've got Baldur's Gate. Take the code of Baldur's Gate, load it into an AI, and then say, give me a new version of this with new characters and a new story. It breaks the whole thing down and then rewrites a new version of it just for you. Who will you talk to about it? Nobody.
Who would care?
Right.
Who would care? There'd be nothing. Oh, this interesting thing happened in my AI-generated game. Okay, so in mine as well.
It's like explaining a dream to somebody. There's no shared value or principles embedded into the story to talk about either.
But also it kind of goes around there's a real problem with just AI-generated content anyway, which is on almost a kind of spiritual level, which is whenever you're... the purpose of all art is to transmit a message. And it's to tell the other person who's receiving it something about the human condition, right? And this is what me and Phil were talking about just before the podcast. Like, music is algorithmic, but there's always something human in the music that makes you want to listen to it, right? Some story in the song that makes you want to pay attention. So that's the author of that looking into your soul and saying, I know something about you, and I'm going to show you something about me. And AI destroys that completely.
It's not just AI. This is why multiculturalism doesn't work. Have you ever seen the videos on YouTube just for laughs gags?
No.
So they are videos. You've seen them, Cody, right? Yep. So one example is there's a little girl, and she has a table with 4 buckets full of coins. And she waves to somebody. She points at the buckets. The guy looks over, walks over. She then grabs 2 of the buckets, and they're very light, and she puts them down. And then she shrugs at the guy and goes, and then she points over there to another location. He turns around, and when she does, they spin the whole cart around. She then grabs the ones that appeared to be on the other side and walks with them, and then the guy tries to grab the coins, and he can't, and he's looking at her carrying these coins. So they're gags, right? There's no speech.
Right.
There's no sound. It's just literally goofy sounds in the background. There's laughing and goofy music. They do this because it's appealing to every person in the world. Anybody can watch that and understand the gag. even if they don't know the language. So what we're getting now with movies that try to sell internationally is everything's being reduced to the lowest common denominator. So you mentioned, when it comes to music, it's conveying a message. Pretty sure Espresso by Sabrina Carpenter conveys no message at all.
I don't know. There is a message in there. It's just not a very good one, right?
Right, but to be fair, yes, there is a message, but it's rudimentary at best.
It's appealing to the downgrade. That's what it is.
Well, it's appealing to the most amount of people, so it has to be like extremely lowest common denominator. So it's the average person's kind of like, I get nothing from this. Actually, I take that back. A large portion of the population say this is crass and I get nothing from this. But in general, enough people go, yeah, switch it up like Nintendo.
Yeah, I mean, the vulgar culture appeals to vulgar people, right? And that's been the way things have always been. But and that's fine. You can have the AI slop for the vulgar crowd. That's fine. Let them eat at the trough if they want, right? But it's this constant leveling down effect in all art, and it's not just music, it's computer games, it's movies, it's literature. When it can all be generated by AI, then it's going to become that you will pay over the odds for something that isn't particularly good but was made sincerely by a human being.
Here's the best part. How do they train? So Serge brought this up last week or 2 weeks ago, that AI can't make an image of a wine glass filled to the brim. It's because there are no images of wine glasses filled to the brim on the internet. All the wine glasses, It also can't make images of clocks, except for, I think it's something like 1107 or 1007. 1007, all analog clocks. When you go into any AI image generator and say, make an image of a clock at 5:15 p.m., it'll always put the hands at the exact same places, and it'll tell you it's not. And the reason is because of the amalgam of images it's trained off of. What happens when we start making movies, music, and video games and art from AI and publishing it, and then the AI re-ingests that art back into itself?
The same thing that happens when you cannibalize your species, right? You start getting you get
necrotizing fasciitis or
prion diseases and all this sort of stuff. Yeah, all these sort of things. It's going to be the artistic equivalent of that.
Yep. Yeah. So what'll happen is the way I used to describe the AI future is that 50 years from now, everyone will be wearing a corn costume, but that's normal clothes. They'll go to the grocery store, everything's corn or corn derivative. They'll go to Old Navy, everything is a corn. It's just corn suits. And for a person in the past, like, why is everybody wearing corn? Because the United States subsidizes corn and uses corn products for everything. So a rudimentary AI that was learning about what people wanted would be like, there is a disproportionate amount of corn production and corn derivatives in everything. So what it would do is it would start to prioritize corn for production, for art, for fashion. And then after 50 years, 2 generations go by, all that matters is corn because the AI is just blasting it out.
It's the paperclip maximizer, but on a tire, and
right.
Yeah.
Paperclip. That was the other analogy for it, right?
Paperclip
the paperclip maximizer, where it will, it won't see any consequence to what it's trying to do. It'll just take even the atoms and just turn everything into a paperclip as a way of saying it doesn't understand the impact. You give it a clear goal, it'll pave over other things that you want to keep intact.
And what happens is,
you've never seen the game, the paperclip maximizing game?
I've heard of it, I think.
Yeah.
Right. But the issue is that human beings are being retrained by their own algorithms. Like Jack Dorsey is a really great example. He starts Twitter. He's the free speech wing of the free speech party. Then on his own platform, there's this recursive loop of wokeness because it generates rage. Rage gets shares. He then turns into this woke, impaired individual who believes he's consumed his own refuse from his own machine. And it altered his mind to the point where we had that Joe Rogan episode, and he genuinely didn't understand his own biases. Humans are going to be reprogrammed by the AI, then program the AI in turn and create a recursive loop, which will be a spiral down a toilet.
Yeah, no, that's the thing that we've actually been seeing a lot as people conform to the technology, whether it's a bicycle or a phone. Your posture conforms to it, your mind conforms to it. It's just I think it's gonna be picking up over the next 5 to 10 years. And you mentioned the spiritual element. Something is definitely. For me, culture has always been there's a shared story, and impregnated into that story are values that we can sense. You don't even need to be trained on story to sense it. And as that starts to degrade, I don't know if this is causation or correlation, but we're starting to see that severance happening.
Severance.
Right?
All comes back to this show, doesn't it? All comes back to this show. But yeah, I think you're completely correct.
Let's talk about Snow White. So Forbes has the story. Yes, Snow White is bombing at the box office. It is one of the lowest rated films on IMDb. And in a crazy turn of events, Rachel Zegler is getting roasted by the son of the producer of the film because he had to fly to New York City to reprimand her because she's burning the film to the ground, and they need the money. So he wrote this long response. Someone said, your dad flew to NYC to reprimand a young actress. Any words on this? Because that's creepy as hell and uncalled for. People have the right to free speech, shame on your father. And I said, you really want to do this? Yeah, my dad, the producer of an enormous piece of Disney IP with hundreds of millions of dollars on the line, had to leave his family to fly across the country to reprimand his 20-year-old employee for dragging her personal politics into the middle of promoting the movie, for which he signed a multi-million-dollar contract to get paid and do publicity for. This is called adult responsibility and accountability, and her actions clearly hurt the film's box office. Free speech does not mean you're allowed to say whatever you want in your private employment without repercussions. Tens of thousands of people worked in that film, and she hijacked the conversation for her own immature desires at the risk of all the colleagues and crew and blue-collar workers who depend on that movie to be successful. Narcissism is not something to be coddled or encouraged.
Well, you hired her, man, or your dad hired her.
I agreed.
It's like,
when you look at her tweets, it's like, was it a secret?
yeah, you knew what you were getting.
Yep, and they deserve it. They thought this was popular.
Yeah.
They thought she represented young people and they'd want to see it, and they were wrong. So get woke, go broke. I hope the $600 million loss was worth it.
There's something about this that I think goes beyond like the woke stuff, right, as well. Because like my wife loves Disney films, right? She, in a sort of mythological, romantic way. My wife thinks of Disney films the way I think of the Iliad. These to her are like character-forming movies because of the value setting function that they have. They tell this big mystical fairy tale where there's a perfect world and a perfect story that always plays to the end. And I think that there are people who are genuinely emotionally traumatized by what they're doing to these films, because I took my son to his boxing lesson the other day, right? And we ride our bikes down to this boxing lesson. On the way back, we go past a bus stop, and in this bus stop is a Snow White advert, but someone has vandalized it. But it's literally sprayed, painted onto it, boycott. And it's like, wow. Right, is that some guy from 4chan who's got, he's not going to do that. Like, or is that someone who was like my wife? Like, like a mother who's really pissed off about Snow White is being perverted and degraded by Disney as a company. Like, I don't know who did it, but it's just in the middle of like a town in England. Someone is so pissed off about this. They went and vandalized the bus. I've never seen that.
I didn't boycott Snow White. I just didn't want to see it.
Yeah, same. Yeah. Right. It's just no interest to me at all. But it doesn't hold a kind of romantic position in my heart. Whereas for a lot of young women, I think it does.
It also, I mean, these newer remakes of older films, it doesn't feel like they're after the same kind of value setting. It really seems virtue signaling and shallow. It doesn't have the same kind of weight underneath.
Also, money.
Let's take a look at what Snow White was. You get this Rachel Zegler doing press where she's mocking Snow White, the movie itself, saying a guy basically stalks her and then she marries him. Like, kind of creepy, right? She's not trying to find her prince. She's trying to be the leader she knows she can be. And you guys know the story of Snow White?
Yeah, vaguely.
It is the least inspiring hero's story ever told. It's not a hero story. Snow White is a victim the whole time.
Yeah.
Literally, the main character is just the victim of a story of a fumbling, bumbling queen who kills herself. So the story for Snow White, simply put, Snow White's parents are dead. She's a maid. She's the princess. The evil queen is like, haha, oh no, Snow White's coming of age and she's going to be prettier than me. I'm going to hire a guy to kill her. The guy brings her in the woods, says, I can't do it. Get out of here. She runs into the woods. The animals dance and sing. She finds a dwarf's house, cleans it up, becomes their maid, still a maid. They all dance and sing. The queen finds out she didn't die, so she poisons an apple, sneaks by, tricks her into eating it. Snow White passes out. Then the queen goes on top of a mountain to try and push a boulder, gets struck by lightning and dies. And then the prince finds Snow White, kisses her, and she wakes up and they're happily ever after.
Yeah.
Snow White did not save anybody. Snow White literally did nothing the whole movie.
But you're looking at this through the lens of a man.
Exactly.
Yeah,
but what my point is, Rachel Zegler said, no, she's the hero of the story. She unifies the bandits. She saves the guy from the dungeon and then calls out the queen and restores the kingdom. That's not what Snow White was.
Yeah.
Snow White was just some chick who was being chased around and then passed out.
And I look you saying that, no one wants to see a story about like a guy chasing the girl. It's like, sorry, no, that's all of female romance.
Yeah.
That's Twilight. That's
100%.
50 Shades of Grey.
Twilight actually was two guys.
Yeah, right. That's literally Snow White. It's literally all of female romance. That's the female hero.
Oh
story.
yeah. What about what's her face with the long hair?
Well, that's because
There's a million of them.
The
Right?
guy goes and he's like,
Rapunzel,
put on your hair. I want to come bang you.
That's the woman's story. Is that the guy pursues her because she's so important.
yeah.
Jordan Peterson and Jonathan Pajot had a really good breakdown of what the original story is about, with like the older woman seeing a younger beauty, and at first, because is that the one, or is it Sleeping Beauty where she gives her a mirror?
Well, there's the mirror on the wall that tells the queen that you're good looking, but sleeping.
But it's a similar trope.
No, wasn't Sleeping Beauty like she gets cursed to sleep at a certain age?
Remember. I'm not.
But
There's, girl, I didn't watch these things. Right? I was watching Thundercats, man.
Yeah.
To be honest, yeah, like all these stories are like the prince comes and kisses her and then she wakes up.
Right, and that's fine. That's I'm not heartbroken that they've perverted it, but I can see why a lot of people are.
But this is the thing, right? Like, there's this meme about the male power fantasy, and the meme they use is Spider-Man. He's got the busload of children and Mary Jane. He's holding them both, and then Green Goblin is like, "Who will it be, Spider-Man, Mary Jane, or suffer the children?" And then he saves them both. Yeah. He actually saves everybody, and he's like, "No!" And then he defeats the bad guy. That's the male power fantasy.
You got a great Green Goblin voice.
Oh, I was Willem Dafoe. And then the female power fantasy is that all the guys want you no matter what.
Yes.
Yeah.
So in Twilight, Bella. Like, doesn't that mean pretty or something? Beautiful?
It means beautiful in Italian.
It's literally her name. And there's a vampire, and he saves her from getting hit by a car. And he's like, "You're just so pretty. I have to have you." And then the werewolf is like, "No, I have to have her. Now we fight." And that's Twilight.
With shirts being taken off.
I mean,
Right,
that speaks to what, women have an inherent value, and that is the fact that they can make more people, and men have to go out into the world and do something to prove that they are of value. And that's every single story, whether it be about women or about men. The hero's journey is the man's activity. Women's value in society is they're desired by men because they are where they hold the key to more humans.
But notice how the in the women's story the sort of question is she truly as intrinsically desirable as she was hoping she would be? And the man proves that she is through the labors that he goes through.
Bro.
So there's a symbiosis in the stories as well.
Do you actually know what Twilight's about? Like, in all honesty, have you ever seen it?
Well, I mean, I've heard about it. I've not watched
It's literally that Bella has something within her that all of the vampires want.
Well, there we go.
And they're like, they look at her and they're like, oh, and they're like shaking.
Yeah.
Like, she just stands there and she's like, they want her.
Yeah. So but
Pheromones,
that's the combination. That's how male and female stories interact, as you were saying, man.
I got to read the super chat in this segment because this is a fair point. Shaker Silver says, "You're undervaluing Snow White's heroism. The hunters spared her from seeing her kindness and helping animals. She tames the unruly dwarves who take on the evil queen. It's a tale of heroic femininity."
Yeah.
Actually. She cleans their house and gets these scummy dwarves in order and gets their life together. But
that's
respect.
But that's the woman's role traditionally in society, isn't it? It's to order the domestic sphere.
Yeah.
And
because men will sit around in piles of their
men
own
are
refuse.
barbarians. Men are literally
Absolutely.
barbarians. I was when I was a single man. I was a total barbarian.
you know,
you were. We all were, right?
So it's actually pretty funny because I was hanging out with my wife where I can't remember what she was watching. Probably Married to Strangers. Women love that show. You know that one?
I haven't seen it.
Love at First Sight, 90 Day Fiance, whatever. It's like women just love.
Yeah.
And we were talking about something, and I can't remember what happened in the news. And then I made a comment like, well, that's why women are crazy. That's what they say. And then she was like, men are crazy. And then I laughed and I was like, oh yeah. And then I looked out the window and Mike was skating, Special Mike, one of our writers. And I was like, yeah, you're right. Actually, guys are nuts. Like, the guys here are jumping off buildings and like Mike smacked himself in the face and had to get stitches. And I'm like, that's actually true. Men and women are both crazy for different reasons.
My wife's favorite hobby is finding me just a video of a guy doing something retarded. Where it's like, like some guy's like jumping off a roof into a swimming pool or something. And it's like, why do men do this? I'm like, it's hard to explain.
There is a reason, though.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain.
It's kind of badass.
It's the search for glory, right? That's actually what it is. It's glorious, right? If you pull it off, then you're incredible. And if you don't, you've broken something and it's going to really hurt.
You could say the same thing. Men don't ever take pictures like this.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So,
Well,
there's a video I saw of a guy doing parkour, and he's on a building probably 15 feet tall. This is nuts. He jumps a 30-foot gap, and there's an I-beam, and he kicks it, and then backflips, lands on the ground in front of like 30 other guys who all start screaming and cheering.
Yeah.
And then in the video, he's like, I pulled it off, the world record for whatever this move is called. And then the next clip is him showing his broken ankle. He was like, this was the result. It's purple and swollen. And I was thinking about it because as skateboarders, you land the trick, you ride away uninjured. Maybe the board breaks, you ride away, you're fine. But for a lot of these guys that are jumping off buildings doing parkour, they land it, but literally break their ankles and get injured in the process.
There was one the other day where some British parkour guy was climbing a bridge in Spain. He's like 150 feet up, just falls off, and that's him dead.
Really?
Yeah. And it's just like, okay, well,
guys are nuts.
Yeah.
was it Danny Way jumped the Great Wall of China on a skateboard? Sprained his ankles, went back and did it again because it was so awesome.
Yeah, also, Danny Way is the dude who, at the X Games, went on the mega ramp, which is a 70-foot gap going 50 miles an hour, a 20-foot tall vert wall launching him 28 feet on top, so he's 50 feet in the air. He comes down and his ankles hit the top of the ramp, and he front flips, slams on the ground, gets carted out injured, broken. I think he broke his foot. Goes back up, does it again, and successfully lands.
Yeah, that was Jake Brown at the X Games. But yeah, he pretty much fell off of a building. You're thinking of Danny Way?
Danny Way clipped his ankles on the edge of the quarter pipe and front flipped.
Okay, do you remember the one where Jake Brown slammed a flat?
Jake Brown launched off the wall, ejecting off it, fell 48 feet, lacerated his liver and busted his stuff. He didn't come back, though.
No, but he still walked off.
He walked off.
It's like, they're not skateboarders. These guys are stuntmen. The dudes that are doing that type of stuff, that's ungodly.
The Danny Way one was when he was coming back down off a 540 and his ankles hit.
Oh, yeah,
He goes forward.
Jesus.
He flips over and everyone's like, I think that might have been the same time as Jake Brown. It might have been the same event. He flips over and slams and slides down, gets up, goes back up, does it again.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, everyone's like, and then apparently he said like, yeah, my foot was broken, but I had to do it.
Well, there's just something cool about it, man. It's just badass.
I've interviewed Danny Way and Paul Check, who's his trainer, after they had to rehabilitate him, and you could just sense he was just like, yeah, my body will get better, but I'll get back to it. There's something just different in the wiring.
Well, you have to be, dude. You have to be a little crazy.
I would imagine.
I think I have the video. Oh yeah, dude. Let's play it. Let's play it. What do we got here? We got a backflip.
Backflip, rocket air. He's got it. He recovered.
Goes for a 540.
Now in 540.
Oh my God.
He hit his ankles on the coping and front flip to the ground. God. Dude. Yo, he gets back up and he goes and does it again.
Oh my God.
Hard.
Here's another angle of it.
Train as hard as
So,
they do
when I was
day
talking to my
in,
wife
day
and we
out,
were like, women are
these
crazy,
guys
she was like,
hardest
guys are
thing
crazy.
to represent.
I thought for a second and like, Mike just went to the hospital for bashing his face. I'm like, yeah, no, she's right.
Yeah, she is right.
Have you heard of the theory? Kurt Doolittle talks about this, where there's the masculine neurology and the feminine neurology that evolved over time, and he even says that the left comes from the feminine neurology, the right comes from the masculine. But the masculine neurology, it's positive forces being able to protect, it's negative forces, violence. The feminine neurology, it's positive forces nurturing, its negative force is coercion, because like for the feminine, it's typically smaller. That's how it has to kind of do what it does. So back to the Snow White thing, that is pretty interesting that, you know, from that lens, what she has to do to kind of like arrive at that kind of ending of the film, it kind of follows that train of the feminine neurology.
I mean, I think that's an accurate description either way, right? Because that's very clearly what we're watching. You know, the feminine left. There's the devouring mother that wants to consume all of our societies and make sure that no one has any freedom of their own. And the problem is that this is why I was criticizing the Trump administration. They're being a bit too much of the aggressive man, whereas what they need to be is the father, right? They need to take on the responsible role of the father, not posting memes shitting on the left.
So puns shitting on the left.
Yes. No, you're right. Yeah, punning the left, right? That's fine.
Punning the left.
But like, you know, posting memes is too adolescent. You know what I mean? They need to be the respectable father.
There was a response that said, "Why is a Zoomer running the White House account?"
Yeah,
that was one of the. What it was.
I mean, that's a great question, right?
Hilarious.
And, you know, they should be have genuine like. You could put the fear of the father into the left, and that would essentially make them back down. But at the same time, make them feel like the right person is in charge. Because by winding them up, what you're signaling to them is, no, it's just your brother is in charge, right? And he's going to needle you now and make your life a living hell, and that's not responsible, right? And that's not the end of the story. That's the problem. That doesn't put a cap on the end of it.
It's not a foot forward towards harmony or cohesion.
Exactly.
Yeah, I feel you.
Well, the adults were supposed to be back in charge when Biden got elected, and boy, were they not.
No. Yeah. Well,
they were asleep.
Yeah. And worse.
But that's one of the reasons that Trump won the resounding victory, right? Everyone actually wanted to put the adults back in charge. So I'd like to see them pivot more to a more sort of mature perspective at this point.
You know, Trump has, to a great degree, he's not the same man he was in 2016.
I know.
That was a big issue, and I said that all the time back then, because I was still supporting the Democratic Party up to 2020. One of the stories I like to tell was that when I went to Glenn Beck's studio, my Uber driver on the way there, we were talking. He's like, "Where are you going?" You know, he's like, "Oh, I'm going to do this thing with Glenn Beck," and he's like, "Oh, cool." He's like, "Yeah, I'm kind of independent." He's like, I like Trump, but man, I wish you would shut up. And he was like a Latino guy, and I started laughing. I was like, "Yup." But he toned it down, and so in after 2020, or mid 2020, I was in favor of the Democrats. They booted Tulsi and Bernie and Yang, and I was like, this party sucks. So I'm going for Trump because there's nothing they're offering Biden. And after this, Trump went through some heavy stuff. He came back a bit calmer.
Yeah.
He still goes after them. He still insults them, but he's a bit more serious about it.
But the problem isn't Trump himself, right? The problem is the people around Trump, who I all like. They're just flush with the victory, and they're feeling their oats, and it's like, okay, that's great, but you need to rein yourselves in. You need to show that kind of backbone to restrain your own excitement on the win. Because you've won everything. There's nothing you need to prove now. What at least to the enemy. What you need to prove now is that you're worthy of this. And are you worthy? And at the moment, it's kind of a bit up in the air, right? Because, like saying, oh, we're going to take over Canada, we hate the Europeans and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, that's funny. But also, it's not responsible.
It's bro-y, isn't it?
It's too bro.
It's very young man and not enough dad.
Exactly. And it's really pissing them off, and it's freaking them out. And it's not reassuring everyone that the adults are actually back in charge.
But we want Canada.
I don't know why you do. It's just going to be another blue state. Why would you want Canada? Greenland's a great.
Well, I didn't say we give them political representation.
Okay, well, that's a different story. That's a different story.
Dude, I've been saying I never got more death threats than when I jokingly said we will take Canada. It was nuts. Allison was like, what did you do? Because we're getting slammed by death threats. Security companies getting concerned. And I was like, I don't know. What are they saying? They're like, they're mad that you want Canada. And I was like, oh, yeah. I said,
they're not happy about this.
I said we were going to destroy their economy so that we can annex them and then take away their political representation.
Was it Canadians getting mad?
Yes.
No doubt.
Canadians were sending death threats.
Wow.
Yeah.
And they're usually very polite.
Unbecoming of them.
Very much. Very much.
But this is the point, though, isn't it? Right? It's freaking them out to the extent where Canadians are sending death threats.
Do you think any of it, and this is a genuine question, do you think any of it is using those kinds of tactics to call attention to certain arrangements between us and other countries?
Oh, I don't doubt that that's part of Trump's strategy. But it's not the only way of achieving that goal.
Right. It's not the only way you can get people to focus on...
No, and every time you make a decision, you're weighing up costs and benefits, right? And yeah, the benefit is that Trump gets this to be the issue that they are laser focused on, because Trump, the great thing about Trump, he was kind of unpredictable, right? You know, you didn't know what he was going to do tomorrow. Is Trump going to send troops across Canadian border? I mean, it's a non-zero chance, right? That's the thing, and you don't know. So that it focuses their minds, but it also starts makes them think, right? Okay, we need contingency plans, right? We need to seriously think about breaking away from the US orbit of influence. Maybe we need to reconsider NATO. Maybe we reconsider the entire post-World War II settlement. And there are a lot of people who are actually in favor of that. Right?
I think we should invade the UK.
Hey, man, it couldn't get any worse.
We'll bring freedom and democracy, and we'll be welcomed as liberators.
Yeah, well, that's worked every other time, hasn't it?
I don't know. It didn't work in Iraq.
Well, this time, this is the one time.
You're going to liberate Canada next.
No, it's just that, you know, when I look at the UK, I am sad, you know?
The thing is, I am too, but like the point being, like, there are other ways of approaching these problems that Trump could have used that would have not kicked off the storm. Because, I mean, one thing that Trump, I don't think, appreciates is that he's making it very difficult to be right-wing outside of America, right? So look at Canada at the moment. The Liberal Party is storming ahead under a globalist who's running the Bank of England for a while, right? Everything bad about Canada is because of the Liberal Party, because of Trudeau, right? Everything that's shit in Canada, they've done, and yet they're the ones who are more than 50% in the polls at the moment. And the Conservative has got to come out and be like, I hate Donald Trump, I'm going to fight Donald Trump. It's like, A, no one really believes that.
Yeah.
B, why the hell do you have to say that? That should be your closest ally. Trump should be bigging you up and giving you all the opportunity you need to get ahead in the polls.
That is a good point.
And it's the same in Europe. It's the same in England.
The prediction markets have Polyev dropping.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if Trump was a bit more, I guess,
collegial.
I was going to say if he had a wider view of things, then understanding why it's important to get Canada into the fold.
See, Trump could have approached it saying, look, I'm not going to work with Trudeau. I'm not going to work with Canada. I'm not going to work with Trudeau. Trudeau has ruined Canada. Look what he's done to you. But that Pierre guy, we're going to give him favorable trade deals. We're going to make sure the fentanyl trade or whatever it is. So, I love Canada. I love Pierre Poilievre. Things are going to be great, and he would have given him a boost in the polls. Same with, all of the right wingers in Europe. Same with Nigel Farage, even though he's been a traumatic failure at the moment.
That's a bummer, isn't it?
Yeah, it's terrible. It's really, really disappointing. I don't know, actually. But the point is, Trump is actually making it difficult for right wingers everywhere else because he's giving the liberals a really strong hand because of these silly things. And these weren't necessary.
I like that. Yeah. If Trump, so we all liked that video of Pierre Poilievre eating the apple with the journalist. Yeah. And he was like, what does that mean? What are you saying? And he's just roasting him. Yeah. But he has to be a moderate guy for what Canada represents. It's a very liberal country. So he's not going to align with Trump. Instead, Trump basically declares, I don't want to say war because in the sense of international things, we are actually getting dangerous close to foreign wars. But he basically starts a spat with Canada for a variety of reasons, putting the Conservatives in a weakened position where they can't agree with him on the ideals that are correct because it puts them in alignment with Trump.
Yeah.
And Trump's a bad guy to Canada now.
And also what he's done is he's handed the sort of nationalistic perspective to the Liberals. If you notice their rhetoric, it's hardcore Canadian nationalism in a way that Poilievre wouldn't have been able to do in the absence of Trump not saying anything, right? He would have come out as a radical right-winger and they would have been like, oh, no, God, you're crazy.
Could be accelerationism.
Maybe, but I don't think it's planned, Right. I think this is all kind of spontaneous. And so now the Liberals have got the hard right position in Canada. So he's got no room to maneuver at all. And it's like, damn, man, this was not wise.
He doesn't seem like the guy who cares about what Canada's doing.
Well, sure, but that's not helpful for.
You know, there are mass layoffs now in their steel and aluminum industries.
No doubt, but that's not gonna improve relations between America and Canada. And moreover, if the idea is to destroy the concept of an international alliance of right wingers, Trump's going about it, right? Because Trump is just going to make it not possible to be right wing in other countries.
I don't think Trump cares.
That's great, but
Yeah.
that's going to be bad when the entire world is left wing and it's just America. They'll work against you.
Yeah.
And this is what I mean about declining political capital when I said earlier.
So you consider yourself an anti-Trump liberal? I'm
obviously not.
kidding.
But the point, yeah, you got me there. The point being, Trump is not solidifying his own victory, right? Trump will be a blip in the historical record rather than setting the new paradigm that the entire Western world revolves around. And this is a wasted opportunity, is what I'm saying. And
You having any meetings while you're here?
no, but I mean, if Trump wants to give me a call, I can make some time.
I think you should talk to a lot of the people in his orbit if you were able to.
I mean, I'd be more than happy to.
Hopefully, I think, hopefully they might see a lot of clips like this, because I do think you're making a lot of really important points.
Yep.
And I just want to be clear as well. I say this as a diehard Trump partisan, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like one of my favorite things going through 2016 to 2020 is watching you desperately trying to resist becoming. It was so great, man.
Yeah, but to be fair, we had Tulsi Gabbard.
I know. And it was just the left. I could see them making it impossible not to love Trump.
Well, so there were a few things. One, Trump was a lot worse culturally back then.
Sure.
He mocked a journalist who got attacked, and he laughed about it. We also had Tulsi Gabbard, who I don't agree with at the time. Like she shifted in a lot of positions, but my view was largely we can't allow the psychopaths to take over a major political party in this country and turn it into whatever that is. We need people of principle to push out the neolibs and the far left crackpots. The crackpots won.
Yeah.
And then, when it came to 2020, Trump put out his second term policy plan. And I said, I'm for most of these things.
It was great.
I have to support it, especially considering I know Biden is bad.
But also there was a cultural element to it as well, where you're a man of the left. I used to be a man of the left. It was one of those things where it's like Trump represents non-leftism. He represents a paradigmatic shift away from what they were trying to achieve. And so if you were on the left, you couldn't ever have sympathy for Trump. But Trump was charming, funny, and you didn't know what he was going to do next. And the left was evil and wrong about everything. And Trump became increasingly more correct about everything.
But I think that's where I've always been. I grew up in a family where I had a conservative parent, a liberal parent. Mm-hmm. I was constantly in the position of stop making me defend Trump.
Yeah.
Because you're lying about him.
I know.
And so I'm making all these videos where I'm like, Trump didn't do that.
I know.
Like, we can say, hey.
I watched all of your videos.
Of course.
I watched them all, and I was like, come on, Tim. Put the MAGA beanie on.
But it wasn't an issue of like, I must be the left. It was, my views are center left on a lot of issues in the libertarian sphere. Aligning with Trump isn't the future that I'm hoping for in this country. They're lying about him every day. They're not giving us a proper alternative. They're giving us no choice. And then they went so insane. I was like, Trump, please help us.
Yeah.
We have no choice. I mean, 2020, when Trump gets first elected, it's fascinating how the Gamergate stuff evolves from this ideology spreading through universities, through media, through social media, but at the highest levels of institutions wasn't yet there. Then midway through Trump's administration, it's now appearing in all these places. By the end of Trump's administration, it's everywhere. And then it's like, okay, we cannot let this keep going.
I agree.
Well, we got him back. Yep. I do think we're winning.
Oh, yeah. And like on the technical stuff, Trump is doing a superb job, right? Like on all of the actual decisions that he personally is making and most of his team are making, he's doing a spectacular job. It's just there is a means of communication that the Europeans and the Canadian types, they don't get it, right? And he could just communicate in a different way that would, even if they're not persuaded, it would kind of put them on the back foot once again. So they wouldn't be able to just sit there and whine about him. Sorry.
We're going to go to your chats, my friends. So smash that like button right now. Today, for every like, it is one more fired federal employee. I found
like.
Exactly.
Let me get my phone.
It works.
The most effective one was every like represents another year in prison for Anthony Fauci.
Oh yeah.
And we got 17,300 likes. Right? People were just like they couldn't mash like fast enough. We're gonna read your Rumble rants and super chats starting now, and we got that uncensored call-in show coming up in about 20 minutes. So you don't want to miss it. You want to go to rumble.com/Timcast IRL. Use promo code TIM10 at Rumble to get $10 off your annual membership and watch the Uncensored Call-In show where our members actually call in. All right. Rain20J says, hopefully Carl doesn't need to deal with the dirty, dirty smear merchants again anytime soon.
They've been all right with me recently, actually, because we're doing a lot of good work over at Load Seaters, so go subscribe. And it's really paying off, and they can't deny it at this point.
You coined that phrase, didn't you?
I did, yeah.
Yeah. It popped up everywhere. Yeah. Everyone was tweeting smear merchants.
That's what they are. That's literally their jobs, you know. So.
All right. Xbox Lad says, hey, guys, check out the U.S. debt clock and look at tax income. Why? What's going on? USDebtClock.org, is that what it is?
Yeah, that's it.
And where's tax income?
Tax income.
I don't know where that is. Tax. There's too many.
Yeah, I know.
There's too many. Okay. Total federal, total debt. I don't know. Savings per taxpayer is up to $2,000 though. That's not bad. The Doge clock.
It's all right.
I don't know where tax income is though.
Is that revenue per citizen? And so
total local revenues.
No, the green one a bit up at the top. Is that it? US
federal tax revenue. Is that what they mean by tax income?
I think so.
Is it going up?
Is it 5 trillion? Sorry.
Yeah, 5 trillion.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, our debt is still going up a lot. It is slowing down, which is pretty cool.
Significantly, actually.
Little John says, God, I hope Ian isn't here. Hopefully he is home putting graphene in. Oh, I can't read that.
I can't read that.
Everyone else here read it. All right. Some randomness says, my tire went flat. Then the air pump was out of order. Then the tire ripped open, and I locked my keys and phone inside the car, all on my birthday. I'm using all my karma points to demand Sargon stop dissing Mexican food.
You know what?
You don't like it?
I'm really sorry that you've done all these things to yourself, but Mexican food still fucking sucks, man.
What? What do you mean?
I'm not even going to explain myself.
No, hold on. I think you're talking about Tex-Mex.
I don't know what that is.
Exactly. You see, I proved it. He's wrong.
Just food that Mexicans make.
So I went to Brazil, and I said I want real Brazilian food. And the guy said, okay, I'll get you real Brazilian food. And you know what it was?
Farofa.
It was steak.
Ah.
Oh,
it's steak. I think like in rice.
Pound de queijo.
I went, well, for sure.
Yeah.
Like that's delicious.
Yeah.
But he's like, hey, look, man, like everybody just eats chicken and steak. That's normal. I went to Thailand. I said, I want real Thai food. And my friend was like, you want real Thai food? I was like, real Thai food. Okay, guess what it was? Chicken and rice.
Yeah.
Really? 'Cause I went to a Thai restaurant in San Francisco. It was a real Thai restaurant. And I was like, okay, I couldn't read anything on the board. I didn't know what it was. So I was like, choose this thing. They give me this weird bowl with it's full of liquid, but there's full of stuff in the liquid. But at no point No, it wasn't. It was kind of like a stew, I guess. But I couldn't identify any of the components of it. It was like large, weird, lumpy things. It looked like an alien dish. And I was just like, right, I'm not eating this. Yeah.
So of course,
Listen, I've seen the way you make your steaks. You're in no position.
Here's
You're
my point.
in no
here's my point.
position.
Of course, there's like specialty dishes, but typically what people think is a like regional dish or like national dish is an American-made abomination. So when you go to Mexico, they're going to give you thin strips of steak with rice.
Oh, okay. Well,
It's delicious.
That's fine, but
Lightly salted, maybe a little.
everything I've seen that people are like, that's Mexican. I'm saying that.
So you're
But
saying
that's actually Tex-Mex. This is the thing. And people in the United States think they're getting Mexican food, burritos and tacos. They do have tacos in Mexico, but the way we eat Mexico, it's actually Tex-Mex. You go to a real Mexican restaurant, and they're going to give you, it's going to be steak. It's going to be carne asada. It's going to be pollo asada, things like that.
Okay.
So Taco Bell's lying to us.
Oh, bro. They tried opening Taco Bell in Mexico, and they marketed it as American food. Because they were like, what is it?
Taco Bell's terrible as well. I don't know why.
Out.
It's a bowl of rice with some beans. It's like, Jesus.
Bro, have you not had a cheesy gordita crunch with the Doritos Locos Taco?
Now I want to go to Taco Bell on the way home.
The Doritos Locos Taco.
We have Taco Bell over in the UK.
You like Doritos?
No.
Okay, well, it's a giant Dorito, nacho cheese, with beef, lettuce, cheese. Then they take a pita, they put cheese, and then they put some, like, ranch on it. And that is...
American food, yeah.
Absolutely.
It's delicious.
I don't eat it all the time, but when I do...
And then more cheese.
Yeah.
If cheese is 3 ingredients in it.
The funny thing about... Everybody knows this about Taco Bell is that it's like 5 ingredients prepared 50 different ways with different names for the exact same things.
It's awesome.
But it's delicious.
I wouldn't
All
change
right.
it.
I mean, what are you eating? Blood pudding? Come on, huh? I like blood pudding. It's good.
I was going to say only as part of a fried breakfast.
I love English breakfast. It's the best.
I know. Right?
Tomato, beans, mushrooms. What else you got? Eggs.
Yeah. Sausage, bacon. Just anything else really.
But like they're bangers, not just sausages, right?
Yeah.
There's like bread in them.
Oh, well, I mean, it depends. Like, if you want a high quality one, you get like Cumberland sausage or something. So it's proper meat with chives or something, and I don't know. They
give you fresh tomato slices. Yeah, it is good. American breakfast with waffles and syrup.
Yeah, it's
have you ever looked at the amount of sugar in maple syrup?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's just sugar.
It's pure sugar.
Literally,
yeah, it is. Yeah.
I looked at it and I was like, wow, I can't eat that.
This is your breakfast.
It's 50 carbs in a couple tablespoons.
Yeah.
So people, like, when they pour it all over, I'm like, bro, that's like 100 carbs right there of pure sugar on your sugar loaf.
Yeah.
Tim's trying to sound virtuous, but look at all the Pop-Tarts when you walk out. It's just boxes and boxes.
Hey,
it doesn't have
who
maple
is I
syrup
saying?
on it.
No, the other day he's like, "Hey man, try this. What was it? Cookies and cream Pop-Tart." I was like, "Oh shit!"
I bet it's
I had a
amazing.
Pop-Tart since I was 13.
No. He's lying.
Yeah.
It was a cookies and cream Pop-Tart with ice cream between the two Pop-Tarts.
I bet that was great too.
He was actually downplaying it. Yeah, we had everybody make Pop-Tart ice cream sandwiches. But that's always allowed. I just don't do it all the time. You know what I mean? It's fine. McDonald's I won't eat, though.
Much.
What have we here? No, McDonald's I won't go near. I know everybody loves McDonald's fries, but not me. I ain't touching it.
It's the fries are the problem with McDonald's, though, if you think about it. Like, it's a burger that's been fried on a grill, okay?
In seed oils, nonetheless.
Yeah. Well, I heard they're going to bring back tallow. They might bring back tallow.
Yeah, I know. RFK, what are you doing? Waiting.
Soapy Enigma says, I just wanted to shout out the Boonies HQ Discord. There's some changes coming to make things a bit cooler, so come join us over there. Come share your tricks, and let's boost the space. Yeah, so boonieshq.com has its own Discord membership, and I think you guys just paid somebody a couple $100 for doing a board slide.
Yeah, so each month they have a trick of the month, like a Boonies Bounties thing, and you get to submit your best trick of that month, and then you win $200. Get all the Discord members vote on it. So if you aren't in there, that's a way to get your votes in and get to be a boss.
We wanted to do something like that with the Timcast Discord, where we would give a $10,000 grant to someone for a cultural endeavor. We are still in legal limbo because 10 grand is a lot of money. Our lawyers are like, this is a very high, like it's an expensive sweepstakes. We got to go over the laws. For the Boonies Bounties, it's similar. It's a contest, but it's so much simpler to give someone $200 with a do a skate trick, and then we judge who wins. But the Discord for the Boonies are the judges. We have no say in it. Mm-hmm. So the community decides who actually gets to win.
Oh, that's great.
And then people go on Instagram and they post, or I guess anywhere, right? Or is it Instagram?
Yeah, it's mainly Instagram, and then we just, like Tim said, just give it over to the Discord members, and it's kind of crazy because sometimes we'll think like, well, we thought this guy should have won, but then it's up to the members. So that's the benefit of being a Discord member. So
yeah, we want to decentralize this stuff, but also we want to boost skateboarding. We love it.
Yeah.
All right, let's grab some more. Ooh, this is a good one. Steven Richmond says, can I get a shout out to my wife, Amanda? 15 years today, and she still puts up with me, hoping for 15 more. Congratulations, sir. That's incredible. I was talking to Allison. We were watching something on the news about a divorce. And then we started talking about marriage, and I started complaining about Reagan and no-fault divorce. And then I was like, I will never get a divorce. I do not believe in divorce. I will never initiate divorce. Nothing could ever happen. Literally nothing. There's like very rare circumstances based on legal precedent and like what society would do, but never going to happen. And then I pounded the table and yelled death before dishonor.
I mean, thrilled.
Oh, she absolutely was. Like, well, I'm glad you think that. And I was like, marriage is, I've been saying this for a while, but I believe. Absolutely. I think a large component of the culture war is those who serve God and those who want to be God. And my explanation was, my oath in marriage is not just for you. It's not just for me. It's not just between us. It is to God.
That's what an oath is.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And I reject those who would break their oaths. And that's why Hachiko the dog is one of the most honorable symbols of loyalty. And you're familiar, right?
No.
The dog who waited for 10 years for his owner who died.
Oh, that's lovely.
In Japan,
sad, but,
he didn't know that his owner had died, and he would come to the train station every day at 5 to wait for him. For 10 years, he stayed there. They kept trying to remove him. He would run back. So in Japan, they built a statue in his honor.
Yeah, that's lovely.
And then he has a holiday for a loyalty day
Right.
That's what I'm talking about. That's honor. Now, if only he knew, I'd have no problem with him moving on and being sad.
Yeah,
but so long as he didn't. And there's so many other stories about dogs that refuse to abandon. That's tremendous. Yeah. That's another reason why I really despise law enforcement that violate their oaths, and they know they do. They are oath breakers, and I think you know what? That the lowest circle of hell is for betrayers and the disloyal.
I think it's always been that way as well. I mean, do you know the word warlock is used as like an evil villain, right? It means oath breaker.
Wow, really?
It means oath breaker.
Wow.
So, this gets embedded in the culture from history, whether you realize it or not. Breaking an oath is just the worst thing you can do because someone else was relying on you.
Back to that spiritual degradation that, oaths don't seem to matter as much to people these days. It feels just like a minor contractual engagement rather than, I'm married and we have our spats and we have our things. But to me, those are the moments where you really realize, okay, this is how I should be communicating instead. You start to learn more by sticking to the oath rather than breaking the oath because that would just feel easier in the moment.
It's really hard to believe that people take oaths seriously these days anyway. I mean, they sound archaic, right? But all of society used to be built on oaths.
Yep.
Everything, it was your oath to your friends, your family, your wife, your lord, your king, your god. The whole thing was predicated on oaths.
This is why I was really disappointed to learn about the corruption at the highest levels of the Klingon Empire.
Oh yeah, me too.
Because they're supposed to be an honor-based society, and I'm half kidding, by the way. But Carl, you're familiar with the Khitomer Accords, right?
No.
Oh, gosh, you need some Trekkies in here.
I've watched enough Star Trek to be familiar with most.
I'm going to tell everyone the story because the writing is just so tremendous. And this is what the boomers gave to us at the end of the 80s.
Okay.
And this is what we are losing today culturally. So by all means, mock Star Trek, but let me tell you this. The Star Trek, the original series, was a bit campy. It was very silly. The bad guys were the Klingons. Ooh. When they relaunched The Next Generation some 20 years after the first series ended, they wanted to show that the story had progressed. So in the introductory episode, the pilot, they have a Klingon on the bridge of the new Enterprise, which is shocking. I mean, they were enemies. The story they wrote was that the Klingons were an honor-based society, and the Federation was largely dishonorable. They didn't like them. The Romulans, which are supposed to be a civilization of people driven by passion and impulse, attacked a Klingon civilian colony, largely women and children. When a distress signal was sent out, the Enterprise picked up the distress signal and rushed as fast as they could to the colony and encountering an overwhelming force in the Romulans they could not defeat, but engaged in battle anyway to try and save as many people as possible, even though they were enemies with the Klingons. The Klingon Empire saw that as an act of honor and sacrifice. The Romulans destroyed the Enterprise, killing all the Federation personnel, but they died trying to save their enemy because it was the right thing to do. The Klingons then opened up communications and sought an alliance with the Federation because they found the Federation to be honorable. What an amazing writing. And I grew up as a little kid, and the boomers gave that to me. And I was like, man, I love these stories. To be honorable. To be the man who knows you're going to run into a burning building. There's a pizza delivery guy, I think it was. Yep. Ran into a burning building to save a couple kids, and he got burns all over his arms, but he saved those kids' lives. And you know what's really sad? Those kids are going to grow up, they're going to be 20 years old, and they're not going to think about them. Maybe once in a while. Maybe once in a while. But on a day-to-day, it's not going to come up. But that guy's going to live with those scars for the rest of his life. And that's what it means to be a man.
But the thing is, this is why we need to have a much more conscious view of mythology, right? Because like that's set now forever, right? That's, Gladiator, what we do in life echoes in eternity. That's generally the principle of mythology, right? That now has, like, that story can be told over and over and over. And now, however many hundreds of thousands of people watch this, they're going to be like, oh, who the hell's that guy? And so the story, it's set forever now. So his heroic sacrifice wasn't in vain. That's what heroism mythology is for. And
I will stress too, I care not for badges. When I see these people in the White House with all of these things on their chest, no, the badge to me is the veteran who is scarred, maimed, injured, or paralyzed. That is the true mark of a hero and sacrifice and honor. That I get to walk around. I'm a 40-year-old guy skateboarding in my own little. Why? Because there are people who are willing to die to save my life, and I don't have to do that. I owe them everything.
Yeah.
So I'm a big. That's why another reason why I want our leadership to be veterans. It's why I was a fan of Tulsi Gabbard. It's why I'm a fan of J.D. Vance. I really, really think that our president, vice presidents at the highest level, they should have served. Donald Trump, he's much better than what else we got. And he's not bad. He's a good guy. But I like J.D. Vance.
I get the feeling that Trump was a necessary corrective to the corruption in the system, right?
Agreed.
Because you can't. It's very difficult to get a prim, honorable man to do what was necessary to be done. And Trump, not necessarily. I mean, I'm not saying he's dishonorable or anything, but he's not prim and noble in that way, right? He's a brawler. He's a street fighter politically, you know.
Right.
He's a New York businessman. He knows all the dirty games, and he's like, no, you know, fucking Lying Ted or fucking
Little Marco.
all of these, Little Marco, all of these names. He's like, no, I'm going to bully you all out of the way because I know what needs to be done to save this. And look, you know, it's all turned out pretty well.
Let's just grab a couple more here. Chubby Wubby says, Tim, Snow White has a lower rating than the Human Centipede 2 on IMDb.
Oh my God.
Underrated film, by the way, guys.
Forgotten classic. That's what they all say.
Never mind the first, not even just the first one.
Can't wait till I can show that to my kids.
Human Centipede 2.
Mr. Spencer says, "Hey Carl, happy to see you outside of the tax prison. You had a chat about responsibility to civilization that rears you with destiny many moons ago. It inspired me. I have 2 kids now, both under 2, and copy of Islander 3.
Well, congratulations on getting your copy of Islander 3. Well done about the kids too. So for anyone who was wondering, Islander is a philosophy magazine, a sort of traditionalist philosophy magazine that we produce. And we did the first one, and we didn't, because we want to make a really, really beautiful thing that has deep philosophical essays in it, and you know, poetry and all these other things. And we didn't know if there was going to be a market for it. So we okay, we'll give it a go. And the first one sold like 6,500 copies. Oh, that's not bad. So we thought, we'll do it again. Do another one. The second one sold like 7,500. I was like, okay, great. And so we printed 10,000 of this last one, and we sold out within like 3 or 4 weeks. And so they're all gone now. And it's like, wow, okay, people are really enjoying this. You know?
So the last thing I'll say before we go to the Uncensored show is, with all due respect to Maj Touré, because I think he's a cool dude, he's a good dude, he made a sweater where it says freedom over everything. It's freedom, line, everything. And I was thinking about that because he gave me the sweater, and I actually have it hung up. And so I was walking past it one day, and I stopped, and I thought, nah, duty over everything. We have a responsibility to each other and to the world and to God and to life and to everything. And freedom over everything leads to degeneracy and moral decay.
Yeah.
So my friends, smash that like button, share the show with everyone you know. We're going to go to that uncensored members-only call-in show with all you guys over at rumble.com/Timcast IRL. You got to be a premium member. So use promo code TIM10 to sign up and watch. And if you're in our Discord server at timcast.com, your chat actually appears on the screen, and you can call in and join the show with us and our guests. So that's at timcast.com. Click join us. Get in the Discord. Don't just be a passive observer of the news. Be an active participant in this culture war, because it may be the only thing you contribute is a single sentence, but it could be a single sentence no one ever thought of. You go to that Discord. Maybe it's not the Discord. Maybe it's somewhere where you meet with people and you say, I thought of this thing. You give that one sentence, and light bulbs start lighting up over people's heads. And then who knows, maybe in a year, Donald Trump's at a rally saying exactly what your idea was because it made it that far. So smash that like button. Follow me on X and Instagram at Timcast. Carl, do you want to shout anything out?
Just check out the podcast, The Lotus Eaters, on Rumble, Twitter, YouTube, wherever. And that's where we are.
Right on.
Go to benjosephstewart.com. Check out all the content that I'm making. Documentaries for days, son.
Right on.
Cool. You can check me out, Cody McIntyre on Instagram. Head over to Boonies HQ Instagram and YouTube, and that Discord for exclusive content and perks. So check it out.
I am Phil That Remains on Twix. I'm Phil That Remains Official on Instagram. The band is All That Remains. Our new record is called Anti-Fragile. You can check it out on all the streaming platforms. Don't forget the left lane is for crime.
We will see you all over at rumble.com/TimcastIRL in about 30 seconds. Thanks for hanging out.